hopefully this dual stream should work this time, and it should put it into the shorts feed. So cross fingers. Dalton tested it, by the way, earlier this week. Dalton was testing the new dual stream on YouTube. And he said it was working for him. So I'm assuming it's working right now, but we'll have to wait and see.
Looks like I see horizontal. I don't know how to go look at the vertical version.
Well, that's my thought. It should just be on the channel, right?
I only see one live video posted.
Did they still not get this motherfucker fixed?
I don't think it's fixed. I think that we should just do the 2 separate streams.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. God damn it, YouTube.
Well, look, you sort that. I'll bring up guests.
Well, no. In order to break, well, I could.
You could just
well,
put in another stream key, right?
Yeah, I'll put in another stream key, and then I'll stop the vertical stream. Well, actually, because it's set up for dual stream. If I stop the vertical stream and send it to another stream key, it'll actually I won't stop it. I'll just set up a third stream key and send it there. Let's fucking go.
All right, I'm gonna bring up a guest. We have a guest named
thing.
No Degree Required. I believe that we've spoken with No Degree Required before, actually.
We have definitely spoken with No Degree.
At least, perhaps individually. I don't know if we've spoken with No Degree Required collectively.
I've spoken with all three of you.
Oh, indeed we have.
Danny and I go back to Discord and Clubhouse.
No Degree Required. You are. I don't know why I can't hear him at all. Actually.
Oh, did I not turn the audio on for? Yeah, I apologize. I didn't send the TikTok audio over to y'all just yet. I knew I forgot something. Let me get the TikTok audio sent out to everybody, and we'll be ready to rock.
Sorry, please have patience. No Degree Required.
Now everyone can be patient.
Now you can hear No Degree.
Go
ahead, No Degree.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Oh, it's Matt. It's Matt. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we know Matt?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Danny and I go way back.
Okay, so what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I kind of just wanted to come up here and give some loving advice, you could say.
Oh boy!
And then y'all can move on to the
about slavery
to the next guest. Well, we could discuss that, but it was more. I am in the works of having possibly a one-on-one debate, by the way, on that topic again. But more on the way atheists approach, particularly the heavyweight Christians. And what I mean by the heavyweight Christians, I mean like the Courtney from Biblical Apologetics, Constantine Chronicles.
The heavyweight. These people aren't heavyweights.
Well, Constantine Chronicles.
None of these people are educated. They seem like heavyweights.
Big John Steele.
Big John Steele is not a heavyweight either. Heavyweights would be somebody that like actually has an education in the field. So Trent Horn. Trent Horn has a real education.
Okay, Constantine Chronicles is in the getting an education currently, but
sure.
Also, even William Lane Craig.
Okay. What about them?
So basically, what I see atheists doing is that they'll accuse these Christians of certain things when they're not actually doing this, like running apologetics for grape, or you guys have done it before. I've heard you say it. You're saying that they're a grape apologist. Or something like this, and I think when you do that, and then maybe you kick. I've seen them trying to explain something, then they get kicked. Said, "Oh, well, we're not going to tolerate somebody who's apologizing for grape or apologizing for slavery or something like that," and then they kick them. The only thing,
Justin, do you kick people when they start saying crazy things?
No, I only kick people if they start saying like anti-Semitic stuff, or if they use a bunch of slurs that'll get my live stream taken down.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. I was in a room earlier, a guy by the name of Solovino. Really nice guy. I like going to his live. Yeah, I like going to his lives. But the guy who you have, who sometimes comes on your live, Justin, who kind of has, he seems to be really good at debating Muslims. Kind of has that. Strange. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was him. He come up there when I was talking and said, this guy, he accused me of, I'll use the P word because I said that 16-year-olds could consent when asked.
Oh, well, that's a
And
crazy thing to say, by the way.
I was kicked off the stage simply for that position. But what I'm saying is when you kick someone off of a stage simply because they have a position and then you accuse them of something that's not actually the case, then the only thing that does is make the Christian, think, okay, well, look, this is expected because they did this to Jesus. They made up things about him, made false accusations and stuff like this. So this actually, I guess you could say, strengthens our position. But y'all may think it's actually hindering our position, but it actually not. So my advice would be when someone says stuff like that, to hear them out, let them explain it before you kick them. And that's kind of what I'm saying here. And the reason why I come up here was everybody could hear this. The low-hanging fruit could hear this too and maybe understand what I'm saying. Because a lot of people listen to your thing here.
Well, I guess the first thing I would ask is if let's say instead all these people, all these atheists didn't kick you and treated you with respect, the kind of respect you have in mind, would that be evidence against what the Bible is saying? Because you're saying
it would be evidence that they're willing to actually have the conversation and willing to say, you know what, I'm not just going to.
It's not what I asked for.
Evidence against the truth of it?
You're saying that Christians are disposed to thinking that it confirms their Bible when we kick y'all like this, right? So I'm not asking if we instead don't kick you and we give you the kind of respect that you want, right? Is that evidence against your Bible?
Not necessarily, no.
So either way, so it's just like, okay, then the people that think that we're kicking them, right? In what sense is it evidence when no matter what happens on the live, whether we're respectful or kick you or not, isn't confirmatory or disconfirmatory of your Bible?
Well, it's this, because what we'll see often is a Christian will see, say, a Muslim come up on a stage, and then they'll be talking about the age of Aisha or something like that. And the atheist is usually more apt to let them explain the position or hold a certain position to it, but then quickly kick the Christian, then there does seem to show some sort of bias.
So just to be clear, when Aisha comes up in conversations with Muslims, and it doesn't always come up, but when it does, what you will often see is the non-Muslim, whether they're an atheist or a Christian, will berate them incessantly and harangue them because they're defending pedophilia. Right, I've never seen an atheist.
Well, I guess it depends.
Go ahead. Yes, please go ahead and explain why it is you think it's okay. That never happens. What are you talking about?
Oh, I see it happen a lot. But I engage with a lot of Muslims. So, well, what I'm saying here is and also another issue would be when, let's say someone says, oh, well, an underage person should have access to free contraceptives without their parents knowing and stuff. You're not going to kick them and saying, oh, well, you're promoting pedo behavior because you think an underage person can engage with this. So what I'm saying is at least hear them out before you do this. And then maybe say, okay, well, I don't like this, and then kick him. But when you just come up on the stage, say, well, this guy shouldn't be on the stage because of...
It seems like you came up to complain about people who aren't here.
Well, I came up to complain because you guys have a large following, whether you like it or not. Danny, Dr. Blitz.
Go complain to other people. Go complain to other people. This is not the place to come up here and
these are the low hangers. The low hangers need to hear this, and this is a good platform for them.
It's not a good time.
Be wrong, no degree, but I think you're the low hanger, so I just cut you right off the tree. We're gonna move on to some real content. All right.
Very.
Let's get our next guest in here. Cause actually, let me get our super chats. I apologize. And then we'll move right into our guest. Base to share, my friend. Oh, let me get that so that it's on top of the. My apologies. On top of the everything. There we go, and there we go. Base to share. Thank you for the super chat. This is Justin. Do you have any promotional material we can post on social media? I want to promote you on Instagram and any other platforms that will catch my old Christian friends' attention. Well, that is a very good question. As it turns out, I don't have any promotional material. The only material I have is what I've got on my YouTube page. and on my TikTok. So I guess that means like theoretically you can find some videos that you really like and try to post them up locations where you think they might see it. But other than that, I don't know if there's much else that you'd be able to send them. So I mean, I really appreciate you wanting to at least. I mean, that's really, it'd be really helpful to at least get them in the discussion. You know what I mean? So W there. And 1 second. Give me 1 second. I need to piss everyone off because I have to refresh my page to load the new super chats for the new stream, for the vertical stream that we just started right now, and I didn't add to the session.
Good job.
Well, we added it live, and so it's not really.
Okay, it does seem like it's working, yeah, which is good.
Well, the super chats from the other stream are coming through. Give me 1 second to plug in the new stream. Second. Because we got 3 streams now that we're technically running on YouTube. Okay, I just added the new stream. All right.
You know, somebody said, has No Degree Required actually like done a debate recently, or does he just go up and complain?
I think he just complains.
Yeah, there's a lot of whining. A lot of whining.
So yeah, that's my understanding. Nevertheless, give me 1 second. Unfortunately I have to refresh my page. The live stream should.
I can just read them. I can't click them, but I can.
No,
read them.
I have to refresh my page for the new ones to show up.
I know, but I can see them, so I can read them.
Oh, that's good news. But I have to refresh my page. You're gonna see a blip. The stream won't go dead. Don't worry. And then I'll have to add us 3 back to the canvas here in a second, but won't be too big of an issue. Okay, 1, 2, 2.5.
Wait a minute. Somebody says he was doing rape apology on another stream today. So was he just talking about himself? Was he just mad that he got kicked?
Yeah. Okay.
He had a wife? Oh, that's a shame. Should I bring up another guest in the meantime?
Yeah, we can bring him another. I just restarted it. We're already live on the all the streams.
So I'm going to bring up Kasane Tito. Kasane Tito, how's it going? Tato?
Yeah, hey Dr. Blitz, I just wanted to say I love you and that like you're an inspiration for me. That's it.
I appreciate that, but make sure to not call from the bath.
I'm not.
Where'd he go?
It's just a bit. Dean has been getting so many people who call into his live streams while they're in the bath, and it's so funny.
Oh goodness. Why are people like debating in the bathroom?
Because it annoys Dean. That's why.
Oh, well, that makes. Yeah.
Like, it is really funny. Anyway, that is all the guests that we currently have on the on TikTok. So if anybody wants to join, if you're watching on TikTok and you want to actually have a conversation rather than just complain and whine about being kicked off because you're apologizing for rape, feel free to join the guest box. We'll bring you up. We are normal adults. Even Ian's not here, so you won't be made fun of as much.
I don't know if we would want to tell lies like us being normal adults. I mean, maybe Danny, the normal adult. I don't know about Blitz and I.
All right, we do have a guest. Let's bring up.
We got 3 of them actually.
By blood. Do we? Where?
In the TikTok. Well, we had 3. Now we got 1 left. We had before you brought up Bought by Blood. I mean. All right.
How's it going?
Blood's back.
Hello, I'm bored.
Bought by Blood.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. How you doing, Blood?
Good.
It's like you know all these people, Danny.
Yeah, we know Blood. What argument you got today for the Christian?
Danny's on. I can't hear Danny.
Is it? Oh, that's sorry. Weird. Is he muted? 1 second. Danny, your microphone. Danny, refresh your screen or your microphone. not plugged in or something.
It's so funny.
Oh, no, your microphone is there. 1 second. Why is you not being heard?
I
Don't
can
run
hear you,
from
but I don't
me.
know if anybody else can. Wait, can you hear Danny? Bought by Blood?
I can hear Blitz. I don't know why we can't hear Danny though. Why would we not be able to hear Danny? We're all using the same audio that we were before. Danny, do you have a mute button on your mic?
We can hear.
Oh,
but we can hear him.
Use
I
sign
can't hear
language,
him.
Danny. Sign language, I say.
It's weird. Danny, just buddy, refresh your
Yeah, we can
page.
hear
I
him.
think something broke on.
But we can
your
hear
end.
him. I don't
I couldn't
understand
hear
that.
him. I could
Oh
not
wait,
hear
no.
him.
TikTok. Yeah. Okay. So this is.
Yeah.
How
Don't
does
worry.
this? It's like there's a different problem
Alright.
every week.
All right,
Well-
is this better?
That was just a refresh. Yeah, everyone can hear you now.
Okay, okay.
Hi,
Yeah,
Danny.
I know all. I don't know. Someone was saying that I know all these people. Well, I don't know if you know the story. You know the movie Lawrence of Arabia. I'm like the Lawrence
Yep.
of Christian apologetics, right? Like
Okay.
Right,
So like you just wander around and talk with the locals.
right. I talk. Yeah, right.
Makes sense. Makes sense. What you got for us?
Plug.
Bought by Blood?
Oh, you're talking to me. Sorry, I thought you
Yeah.
were
What you got for us?
I'm bored, so figure we could run an argument.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do it.
All right, so God's not real. I talk to Danny all the time, but so maybe Blitz or Justin, you guys want to?
John, do you
the-
have any views about like Genesis? Like, do you think it's literal? Do you think it's do you believe in old Earth? Do you take a strong position? Because maybe if you have a position like that, you could talk to Blitz.
Yeah, I'm old Earth. I'm also
You're
I'm
old Earth.
theistic. I'm theistic evolution.
I'm actually curious. Like, and you know, this is not meant to like spark a debate or something, but I'm just curious because I don't get to talk to theistic evolutionists a lot. How do you make sense of stories like Genesis 1 and Genesis 2? Like, what's the hermeneutic there?
Yeah, so we already see in Genesis that there's like, so let me first go through this. Genesis already is using poetic language. So when you walk through like the structure of the days, for example, you see that there's clearly poetic things that are happening and metaphors that are being utilized. There's also parallels, like the certain day will line up with the certain creation. So we already have like prior knowledge of that. Now, I still believe in a literal like Adam and Eve. But there's a book by, I don't know how much you like read your opposition's materials. The best way to describe my position is called The Genealogical Adam and Eve by Joshua Swamidass. And it is not about a genetic descent as much as it is about a genealogical descent. So theistic evolution still takes place. You still have Genesis 1 and 2. I think there's like more than likely a historical, like literal place that Adam and Eve were as the Garden of Eden. But
they wouldn't have been the only humans.
No, I don't think.
Okay.
I don't even think Scripture. I don't think Scripture
Yeah,
teaches
I mean,
that.
Scripture definitely alludes to there being other people, right? Because that's who. That's how Adam
Yeah,
and Eve's children
you have Cain.
found wives, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you have Cain, and he's like, whoever finds me will kill me. But right now, there's only 4 people mentioned. So, yeah, I think. I think. So let me put it this way: I don't think you should defend scientific claims from the Bible.
Sure.
Because I don't think the Bible's a science book. So
now
I think you can have harmonization, such as that theistic evolution is not contradictory to the Genesis account. I think that would be the best way I would put it.
So and the point of contention for me, and you know, if it's just metaphor, then perhaps that explains it. So like if we look in Genesis 1, we see, for example, that plants existed before the sun did. We see that birds existed before land animals did. And of course, as a theistic evolutionist, I'm sure you know, the sun existed before plants did, and flying animals didn't exist until long after land animals did. So do you just take it to be that this is like a
so that's the structure. That's the structure that I'm talking
here, or
that's the structure that I'm talking about.
To mean?
So it's not metaphor. It's a literary device. So the way that they're writing it, so I don't have it in front of me right now. I could send you something, and basically, if you match the, I haven't talked about Genesis for a minute. Actually, I haven't talked to atheists for a minute. I'll be completely honest. I've mainly been tracking down Muslims. So in Genesis,
like makes you sound like a psycho.
Say what?
Don't phrase it like that. It makes you sound like a psycho.
I'm fine. I'm fine with it. It's good. So
it's a literal apologetics war right now between the Christians and Muslims. So
I mean, I feel like that's been the case for the last 1,000 years. Nothing new, right?
Yeah, but it's getting to new heights, right? Like it was not what it was 10 years ago. Something happened, right? Like the big dramas and stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Well, anyway, you were saying.
Yeah. So basically, it's the author is using a literary device. The literary device is where it is matching up between the two Genesis narratives accounts, right? So first off, Genesis 2 more than likely was written before Genesis 1. Genesis chapter 2.
That's my understanding, yeah.
Well, that is debatable.
Well, that's why I said more than likely. I'm not saying it's absolutely the case.
I thought that Genesis 1 was generally agreed to have been written in the post-exile period.
Secondary.
Both of them are post-exilic.
Oh, okay. Okay, then I might be getting my history wrong. But yeah, sure, go ahead.
Yeah, but the general position is that Genesis 2 is written first. And then you get into Genesis 1. When you compare the days between Genesis 2 and Genesis 1, you'll see a direct structure that is symmetrical with each other, where the author is, and it's potentially even a different author, but
definitely different.
The author is, but yeah, potentially. So
absolutely, that one.
Oh, not absolutely.
But no,
I wouldn't say absolutely.
It is, yeah.
But
it's not important to this conversation, but it is.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, potentially it's a different author, but the author, and Justin might know exactly what I'm talking about, where they're using this literary device to talk about the structure of the days in accordance with like what's being created.
I don't know what literary structure you're referring to.
And I still don't see how this explains the plants before the sun, the flying animals before the land animals, because as far as I'm aware, the account in Genesis 2 doesn't even really talk about that kind of stuff. Like it's like, there's a garden, so there's plants in it, but it doesn't say that like the plants were there and then it was daytime or something. And it doesn't talk, I don't even think it mentions the flying animals at all. I could be mistaken, but I know that it says that all of the animals are under your dominion, but it doesn't divide them up into chunks, does it?
Divide what into chunks?
Like the animals into different groups, like the land animals and the land animals and the flying animals and the swimming animals.
I think the real contention with Genesis 1 and 2 is that the order of operations gets flipped. In one, man is created last, and in the other, the animals are created. In one, the animals are created after man. In chapter 2, because he gets to name them and he wants to find theoretically a mate among them, and then when there is no mate, he creates Eve, that's kind of a big discrepancy, the fact that the order of operations is different. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, so I can't remember what it's called. There's a specific term for it. Like I said, when it comes to the Genesis thing, I can send you like a PDF.
Sure.
And you can also look at it from like Joshua Swamida's stuff. But Now, if you wanted to, like, we could talk about what do you think about the argument against naturalistic evolution from Plantinga? Have you heard it?
Yeah, I think it. I think it just basically incorrectly understands what the naturalist view of the mind is, right? Like it supposes that the naturalist view of the mind, or the naturalist view of, like, you know, is like something that is directly under evolutionary control.
Are you there?
Let's.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Something happened to Blitz.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I heard
it been on my end. Can you hear me all right?
The entire thing kind of cut out.
Okay, yeah. So all I'm saying is that I think that Plantinga's, or at least the way that people represent Plantinga's argument, is literally a straw man. It fails to understand what the naturalist view of the mind is, in which case, or one of the many naturalist views of the mind, in which case it's arguing against nothing that a naturalist is going to put forward. Like, a naturalist is not going to put forward that beliefs are the kinds of things that are, or that rationally examined beliefs are the kinds of things that are subject to evolutionary pressure.
Okay, so for example, like, if you take the first premise that,
yeah,
like,
we can hear you.
If you take, like, the first premise that the probability of our cognitive faculties being reliable on, like, evolutionary naturalism is already low, would you disagree with that premise?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, why would you? I'd be curious why you disagree with that, because that seems intuitive. That seems just intuitive.
Yeah, because so cognitive faculties are a kind of structure, or a function, perhaps, in the mind, depending on what your view is of, you know, mind under naturalism, of course. But cognitive faculties are a kind of function in the mind that are, in some sense, adaptive. So you can have, yeah, let me give an example. So I don't know if this is true about any human adaptations, but for example, I know that cats have an instinctual response to long tube-shaped things that look like snakes, right? If you take like a paper towel roll, like a paper towel tube, and you put it next to a cat, I've seen many videos of them just, like, flipping out because it looks like a snake, and snakes are, like, you know, enemies of cats, and so they have, like, this instinctual, natural, you know, or this instinctual reaction to snakes. And so humans are going to have that kind of thing too. Like, if we see gore, we get, like, a disgust response in our stomach, and, you know, at least some of us have, like, this innate fear for heights and things like this. These are the kinds of beliefs that we might have that are directly responsive to evolutionary pressures. Cognition, rational cognition, is not that.
So what I'm trying to, like, so we're just talking about two hypotheses, all right? Hypothesis naturalism, hypothesis theism, and then we're saying, okay, given what we know and what we have within our priors and our posterior probability about these things, why would you deny the P1 on the probability that our cognitive faculties are reliable? Is already low given naturalism. So if we just say bare naturalism,
are you disregarding evolution? Okay, so naturalism minus evolution.
No.
Or evolution. So are
I'm sorry.
Are we adjusting our priors using evolution as well, or are we adjusting our priors just bare naturalism, not considering evolution?
So yeah. So right now it's just bare. So the way Plantinga's argument runs is it just starts off on bare naturalism. I mean, you can have evolution there as well, but we're just saying, okay, the probability our cognitive faculties are reliable, given naturalism and evolution, is already going to be low.
So given naturalism and evolution, I would say it's actually quite high comparatively.
Okay, so why would you say, given naturalism, the probability would be higher than, like, another explanation? That's what I'm trying to see.
Well, so look, you can do comparative Bayesian analysis, or you can do kind of raw Bayesian analysis. And so what we're doing is we're doing, like, theory comparison. And so, like, if you say, you know, given naturalism plus evolution compared with naturalism plus without evolution, naturalism plus evolution has a much higher probability than naturalism without evolution.
Yeah,
is all I'm saying.
We're saying the probability of naturalism is low in virtue of like what naturalism posits. So naturalism and evolution, does it posit that you will have cognitive reliable capacity?
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, this is expected. So the cognitive capacities
why would it be like, well, just clarify a clarifying question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So on your view, why would it be expected on the hypothesis, specifically, such as that evolution is providing for truth tracking?
That's exactly what I'm answering. So the kind of thing that we're talking about is rational cognition. We're not talking about we're talking about belief forming mechanisms. We're not talking about the beliefs themselves, right? So we're talking about belief forming mechanisms and whether those are reliable. And so the point is that in order for a belief forming mechanism to be so it's the mechanism that will be selected for, not the beliefs themselves.
Okay, and what's the mechanism?
Part, right?
What's the mechanism?
The mechanism is it's what we would call, like, you know, inference forming. It's what we would call, you know, rational deduction. These kinds of things that are, you know, evident or that are descriptive of what we would call rational thinking, right? That's the mechanism that's
okay.
How
is that
investigation here? I'll get to that. But as long as we agree that that's the mechanism.
How is the mechanism?
We agree that that's what we're talking about.
Distinct. Well, I'm trying to clarify. How is the mechanism distinct from the belief? So if you define the mechanism here.
The mechanism can be correct and it can still lead you to incorrect beliefs. For example, if your input data is wrong, right? So the distinction here is you're comparing the output data to the machine that produces the output.
Let me steel man you that way. I just make sure I'm not missing anything.
Sure.
So the mechanism is how we're making what you said we're making inferences.
I can't hear him. Why can't I hear him?
You can't hear me?
Hello?
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 Can you guys hear me?
Justin, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Why can't I hear anybody?
I have no idea.
I can't hear anybody. Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
I can hear blood again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, I missed all of that. I missed your Steelman. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Steel Manning, you're saying the mechanism is how we can like the capacity to form inferences, right?
Yep.
Okay. So what is that mechanism? What is it that gives us the capacity to form inferences?
That's a question of, like, neuroscience. It's like whatever the neurological circuitry is that, you know, takes inputs and then makes deductions and then forms outputs. But look, I don't think that we have to know how the machine works in order to talk about the machine.
No. It's not about that. It's if we're looking at the mechanism for what produces, like what has the capacity to perform inferences.
He's cutting out.
And
is he
you're
cutting out for
trying,
anybody else, or is it just me?
I've got like full bars. I don't know.
I think it's on our end.
He didn't cut out for me.
Okay, then it might just be on my end. Go ahead. Sorry again.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So anyway, yeah, I'm just trying to understand when you say the mechanism and how it forms inferences. It seems to be that's what's in question right now, right?
Yeah. And that's the thing that I think that we have a good case for it being reliable.
Okay. So why, though, is the probability of it being reliable higher than not?
Yeah. So when we think about what a mechanism is, so this is some sort of neurological function. And if it's going to be selected for evolutionarily, which, you know, we're granting evolution, so features are selected for evolutionarily, it has to provide some sort of utility. Now, the point is that a mechanism that takes in inputs and gives outputs, that's what this kind of thing is. It takes in, say, environmental data, and then it spits out deductions or whatever. In order for a mechanism to provide utility, it doesn't just have to produce actions. It has to somehow be able to, say, encourage, say, the organism to be able to take the correct action so that it has a better chance of survival, for example. Now, the question is whether or not it's possible for a mechanism that is not truth tracking to provide utility when the inputs and outputs are indeterminate. That's the issue, right? So it's not just that we're saying, oh, well, evolution could select for the, you know, you think that the tiger is a cat, that's fluffy or something like that, because the selection pressure is not acting on the beliefs that are forming, it's acting on the mechanism. And a mechanism that represents reality is going to have to jump through fewer hoops to make deductions than a mechanism that incorrectly represents reality but still produces survivable outputs. And so it's a matter of evolutionary
simplicity. Respectfully, I think you're begging the question. The reason I think you're begging the question is because what is in question right now is why the probability of what is the metric to why the probability of the metric on naturalism and evolution is going to be higher than its like negation. And then, when you said
the comparison, by the way, is evolution plus randomness versus evolution plus, naturalism plus randomness versus naturalism plus evolution. Right. That's
so we can just take the premise having to do with naturalism and evolution, right? So on naturalism and evolution, you have a mechanism. Yep. Well, I'm trying to show you this. So it would just be the negation of that probability. So the mechanism being reliable on naturalism and evolution, or the probability of it not being reliable. So it's being compared to itself. Right, it's affirmation.
So in that case, the probability is.
But here's why I think you're begging. Here's why you're begging the question.
Because if you assume evolution, then that means that you're going to that the kinds of features you expect to see are exactly the kind of features that are evolutionarily cheap and evolutionarily advantageous. And a machine, a black box that takes inputs and then just produces the outputs that correspond with the inputs is much simpler than a machine that takes inputs, scrambles them completely, doesn't produce an output that's meaningful, yet still produces a meaningful action. Okay, one has a more complicated underlying structure than the other.
So this is what you have to cash out for me then, because when you were describing it, your exact words are the mechanism has to do some X, right? The mechanism has to do this. But that's why I'm saying it's begging the question, because I'm asking if we're trying to define why the mechanism on evolutionary naturalism is going to be more probable than without it. And you say, well, the mechanism just has to do this thing, and the thing it has to do is it has to be.
That's what it does.
No. But you said it has.
Under the evolutionary hypothesis, that's what it does. That's what it has to do. That's how evolution functions.
But that's distinct. When you say that's what it does, that's not what's in question right now. What's in question is the probability of cognitive faculties being reliable, just given. But why does it function? That's the thing.
So
why is it function?
Do we agree
that it functioning
under
that way in
evolutionary
terms of probability?
Yeah. Do we agree that under the evolutionary hypothesis, it is the case that cheaper and more effective features of an organism are preferred and are more likely to appear in a population than more expensive and less effective mechanisms?
Yeah, that's fine. That's talking about
under the evolutionary hypothesis, the expected behavior is cheap and efficient, and that would apply to all structures, including the cognitive ones.
Okay, but why is this? This is where the question I don't feel is Danny here? Maybe Danny.
Danny. For some reason, your connection cut out and didn't reconnect. If you can hear it, you need to refresh your page. I sent you a message on Discord, but I don't think you're on our Discord for some reason. But Danny, just do a refresh real quick. We'll get you right back in here. I don't know if you can hear me though.
So
actually,
I think we're talking past each other. I think we're talking past each other a little bit, because when you're saying, "Hey, this is just,"
I didn't hear your original Steelman.
Yeah, the Steelman originally was that. No, I think you heard me. It was that you're saying the mechanism is about our capacity to form inferences, and because our capacities to form inferences have arrived in such a way that because our capacity to form inferences have arrived in such a way to where they are truth tracking, then that means the probability is going to favor evolutionary naturalism. But no, evolutionary naturalism is the very thing in question.
That's not my position. No, that's not my position. It's not because they are this way that it favors evolutionary naturalism. No, the point is that given evolutionary naturalism, we expect these kinds of truth tracking, or perhaps truth tracking is not the right word. We expect reliable deductions.
Okay, but why?
Reliable inferences.
Why do you expect?
Because
why
because
is the probability that you have reliable
of,
deductions and inferences? Why is that probability higher on evolutionary naturalism?
I feel like I've explained this at least twice now, because those kinds of structures that produce those things are cheaper and more efficient.
Okay, that's not answering the question though.
It absolutely is. Evolution, we expect under
when
evolution
you say
any structure that's
when you
cheaper
say
and more efficient
how
is
do you
the
know
one that
it's more,
evolution will produce.
how do you know it's more efficient?
Oh, because okay, so this gets to the nature of what deductions are. So what a deduction is, in order for a deduction to be useful, in order for this kind of structure to be useful, it has to take some sort of input, and then it has to evaluate how that input could reflect, future conditions or those kinds of things, in order for that kind of deductive or inferential structure in the brain to actually lead to survival benefits, right? And so regardless of the kinds of beliefs that are formed, that kind of future predicting feature has to be there. Now, it could be that the future predicting feature could be there, and then there's another feature on top of it that takes the future predicting behavior, or takes the future predicting feature, and then makes that cause an action, but then the beliefs that form on top of it are completely unrelated. But that would be more complicated than just a future predicting feature that doesn't have that extra feature. I just explained it, because there's an extra thing on top. In order to come to the wrong conclusion, you need to add an extra thing on top, because the underlying feature that takes in inputs and spits out, useful outputs, that must be truth tracking, because otherwise you die, right? Like whatever actions you take as a result of your deductions or your inferences, that must correlate with the real world, right? Otherwise,
but
if you believe something, if you believe that, well, no, I mean, like, if you see a cat and then your deduction says, that's, or if you see a tiger and then your deduction say, that's a tiger, therefore I'm safe, then you just die, right? So the question is not, now you could say, that's a fluffy cat, and therefore I'm going to run away from it. So there's still something truth tracking underlying. The truth tracking being that there is some input that leads to some action that does increase survival. But the point is that in order to make it so that it's not correlating with what's actually out there, you have to add an additional structure. Namely, that you see a tiger, you react as if it's a tiger, but then you think it's a cat. And that's adding something on top of it. That's not there. That's not there in the truth tracking model.
This is working backwards. So when you say, okay, we can observe that our we can observe these things in reality, we can observe how they are truth tracking. Okay?
I'm not saying
you're talking about
I'm not saying that the way they are implies the probability as high. What I'm saying is that if they were a different way, that would require additional structure on top of rational deductive behavior or rational deductive structures.
Okay, so
because whatever's underlying,
are you just saying
that has to be?
Are you saying it's more parsimonious?
Otherwise,
are you saying it's more parsimonious?
No, I mean parsimonious in like a neurological sense, in the sense that you would literally need additional brain structures to have the wrong beliefs, but still take the right actions.
Yeah, but that's still possible, yeah?
It's possible, but evolutionarily, it's not preferred. Evolutionarily, the preferred thing is the thing that takes fewer brain structures to achieve the same end.
Okay, is it possible to have the same amount of brain structure and achieve the same end that is not going to lead to or is not going to follow from naturalistic evolution?
Oh, is it? Wait,
like so for example,
saying, is it possible?
let's just make it simple.
Possible doesn't get you.
Let's just say it takes one brain structure via evolutionary naturalism in order to produce truth tracking capabilities that allow for survivability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we say, is it possible for one brain structure to also produce those like that same reality, but it doesn't have truth tracking?
No, both of those are possible. You need an additional brain structure, right? So look, so there's going to be brain structures that do. There's going to be a brain structure that takes input and leads to some sort of behavior, right? Now, the kind of brain structure that's going to take that input and lead to some sort of behavior, there's some processing that happens there, right? Because obviously, like the computer does the brain does a whole bunch of processing. So there's processing that happens there. Now, so imagine like the philosophical zombie. Like, I'm not sure that such a thing is possible, but imagine the philosophical zombie. It doesn't have any beliefs or any internal experience. It has some input. It does some processing to figure out what's the most likely outcome, so that it can therefore, take the right action to not die. Right, very evolutionarily beneficial. That is one brain structure, just the kinds of input processing, output action. Now the question is what kind of brain structure is going to be a cheaper brain structure to put on top of that with regards to beliefs, right? With regards to beliefs, deductions, inferences, these kinds of things. And the point is the one that doesn't have to change what the processing is doing.
You can still have
is cheaper
beliefs
than the one that has to fabricate something entirely different.
But no, I still think that's. This is why I wish Danny were here, because I feel like you're begging the question. Here's why: when we are looking at the brain structure, and I say, let's say there's a possible world.
If you give me like 5 seconds to refresh.
Danny and I
have
conversations. He's able to explain things to me usually in a way that are helpful.
Well, what I'm saying is, I was going to add all three of us to an output scene, so we would be grouped together. But when I did, Danny's guest room connection broke, so he's just kind of floating. I can bring him back. You just have to give me like 5 seconds to refresh my page. My apologies.
Yeah. Because this is why I feel like it's begging the question, is because I asked in terms of possibility. You have like one brain structure.
I said it's absolutely possible. So the point is like we break up brain structures into functions, right?
So it's possible on that front. Now you're saying evolutionary given naturalism is more probable to produce reliable cognitive faculties and truth tracking capabilities to where we're able to make deductions and inferences. And I'm saying, I'm just trying to ask the question, why is it more probable? And it seems your answer is because it's evolutionary cheaper, right? It's cheaper to do so. Yeah, and so if it's cheaper to do so, and I say, okay, what do you mean by cheaper to do so? And you mean, well, it takes less brain structure. But the brain structure, right, is going to be the thing that has the capacity to produce the inferences, right?
So there's
the brain structure is the thing,
but the brain
is
structure,
the mechanism, right?
So there's kind of like two things going on here, right? So there's like inferences, which is like what we, these are like things without minds don't do inferences, right? Computers don't do inferences. We can probably agree on that.
Say that one more time.
Things without minds don't do inferences. We can probably agree on that, right?
Yeah. That's
okay. So like there's like the brain structure that is like underlying, like, subconscious or whatever, that actually is processing input data and producing output data. Even if we didn't have a mind, that would still be there, right? The ability to predict the future, that would still be there, even if we didn't have a mind in the sense of like some sort of conscious experience. And that thing, whatever that thing is, that has to be truth tracking. Otherwise we would just immediately die off, right?
Yeah. So what do you?
But that's not
so
like the mind.
Let's just grant that could be the consequence. It could be the consequence that we would die off. But why is it the case that would be like a less probable affair? Because this is why I feel like
the ones that had it would survive.
It's because
this is how evolution works. The ones that have the beneficial structure, like even disregarding the higher level reasoning part, the ones that have the evolutionary trait that is less likely to make them die or is more likely to make them survive are going to be the ones that survive.
Okay, that's fine. But the point is, you can still have survivability without having truth trackingness.
So,
right? Is it possible
to talk about this lower level, no propositional knowledge, no mind at all, just lower level, input processing, output brain function, right? There's not even any beliefs to consider here. We're just talking about how does the input data correlate with the output data, or correlate with actions, for example, right? Surely.
Okay, so give an example.
Yeah. Okay. So again, we're thinking about a computer here. Computer, it sees. We can think about like an autonomous car, right? The car, it sees the green light, or it sees the green light as it's approaching the intersection, but then it turns red, and so then it uses some internal processing, and then it applies the brake so that it stops at the light. That's the kind of behavior, like it makes some inference. Well, when it's red, that means that there will be cars coming, and when the cars are coming, that means that it will cause damage to my obviously it's not thinking this, but this is the kind of logic that the structure is doing, and it tries to avoid damage to itself, and so it will break, right? That's the kind of that's the kind of underlying processing that might happen. We can agree that thing must be truth tracking, otherwise the car would just get hit.
But why? Right? So this is my
evolutionarily. This is the kind of thing that's expected.
Well, when you say must, it must do this. It must have this sort of inference. It must be able to have truth.
Otherwise, it would be selected against.
Okay, but why would it be selected against? Right? When you say must, it seems like you're
things that make
using
wrong
a modal
predictions about the future.
I'm
not using a modal. I'm just using casual language. When things make incorrect predictions about the future, their evolutionary utility goes down. Their ability to survive, their ability to reproduce goes down.
Okay, right? That's based off of what we observe in reality, right? When we're looking at
the evolutionary hypothesis.
Yes. So, but the evolutionary hypothesis,
which is what we're assuming. We're granting
we're granting the evolution. We're granting the evolutionary hypothesis. We're granting the evolutionary hypothesis. Okay.
Right.
Well, we're not granting naturalism.
No.
We're not granting naturalism.
Wait.
We're granting the evolutionary hypothesis.
Hold on. Okay, so you said that we were starting with naturalism plus evolution. That we're checking the probability. We're checking the probability.
That's the first premise. The probability.
Yeah. So if you want to compute the probability of something, what you say is, what you ask is, what is the probability that given these preconditions, evolution and naturalism, what is the expected outcome? And then you compare that with the actual outcome, right? That's how you check the probability.
But it has to be on the But it has to be on the reliability aspect, right? So when we're looking at the first premise of planting, he's going to say, so given the reliability, given evolution and naturalism, and you say, what we know about hear me out. When you say what we know about evolution and given evolution, then it's just going to be the case that given evolution, we have reliable faculties, right? On the theory of evolution, we have the brain structure, we have the mechanism, we have the capacity, we can form deductions, we can form inferences. And so now you're pointing to the very thing in question. The very thing in question is, why is it the case that evolution produces reliability?
Okay, so let's talk about the car again. So the underlying hypotheses of what evolution is it's, presumably we're talking about evolution by natural selection, not artificial selection, because that's the hypothesis in question. You have a whole bunch of different organisms or cars, a whole bunch of different organisms or cars that are in an environment. That environment applies pressures to them, and those pressures will determine which organisms are more or less likely to survive. And the organisms
can you have survivability without truth tracking? But can you have truth tracking? Can you have survivability without truth tracking inferences, deductions, and beliefs?
We're not at truth yet. We're just at the level of input-output processing. We'll get there, I promise, but we can't get there until we've laid this groundwork. Okay.
Okay. So I'm enjoying the conversation.
So just imagine.
I feel like we're either talking past each other or something.
We're not even considering minds. We're just thinking mindless organisms, right? The mindless organisms that are able to respond in a way that more accurately represents what will happen in the future, surely we can agree that those ones are going to be the ones that are more likely to reproduce, right?
Okay, more accurately represents what will happen in the future. Break that down.
Yeah, so their actions are conducive to whatever's going to happen. So for example, imagine an amoeba that it needed a certain amount of water to survive. And it could somehow sense when it was going to rain in the future, and so it would go outside, or it would go out from underneath a rock or something when it was about to rain.
That's what. That's what it means.
Can we
that would be the amoeba?
No, it doesn't have any thoughts.
Can sense.
There's no
when it's.
Yeah.
The amoeba can sense when it's going to rain. Okay, which means
I'm not implying any mind here. I'm just saying it gets some input data. And then it uses that input data to make a motion? Okay.
Yeah. I'm not saying the amoeba has a mind.
It's somehow able to take actions to allow it to be in the rain more frequently when it does rain.
Okay, but then, so take an action. So it's a, uncognitive response that it's taking like a
this is
like a type of
purely
reflex
non-mental.
is what you're trying to say. It's like a type of reflex. Okay.
I'm not saying that. I don't want to say it's a kind of reflex. I want to say it's a kind of computation. So I mean, maybe an amoeba's the wrong one. Maybe we should think about like a car or something like this. I'm
trying to think. I'm trying to understand. Is there a delay by any chance? Because normally I don't
think so.
People.
I don't think so. It's just that
I might be able to
go so fast that even if the delay is only 20 milliseconds, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, it might be my fault. But
no, it's fine.
So what you can call it a reflex, whatever you want, whatever you want to call it. The point is that there's some input, and then there's some processing that happens, and then it uses that processing to that processing, the output of that processing then just drives some sort of action, some sort of behavior. And the point is that if the processing, in some sense, and I'm going to anthropomorphize here, but if the processing in some sense predicted the future incorrectly, then the resulting action would be not corresponding to what the organism should do if it wants to survive more efficiently, right? Big air quotes on a lot of these words because I'm using them loosely, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, so it's predicting what would happen in the future, not in the sense of a mind. I'm with you here, but I'm just trying to understand, okay, what would it mean for there to be any sense of like truth maker and truth bearer there?
It's we're not there yet. We're just talking at the level of like
that has nothing to do with the mind. That doesn't have anything to do with the mind. Like truth maker, truth bearer, such as that the environment itself and the entity within the environment is able to respond in such a way that is conducive for its survivability.
Wait a minute. Are you asking why would an entity tend to act in such a way that it's conducive for its own survivability?
Why? Oh, give me 1 second. Sorry, 1 second.
Sure.
While you're giving him that second, you can hear me, right, Blitz? And
yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, I'm on TikTok, so the other microphone is muted. But the way that I want to see this stuff is, look, they want to say that on naturalism plus evolution, it's very improbable that we'd have truth-preserving faculties. And then they want to compare that to supernaturalism, where you have a kind of theism plus because he accepts evolution plus evolution, right? That somehow you would expect us to have truth preserving faculties, but I see nothing about the thesis supernaturalism or theism plus evolution that would have us believe that we would have truth preserving faculties any more than naturalism plus evolution, right? So he has to include an auxiliary hypothesis to theism. That's to say, this particular God wants us to have truth preserving faculties. And then if he does that move, he adds the auxiliary hypothesis, then we can do the same. We can add an auxiliary hypothesis to naturalism plus evolution.
I don't even think we have to.
Well, I'm saying we can do the same thing. For every time he wants to describe the psychology of theism to where it would predict that we'd have truth-preserving faculties, we can do the same thing on our view, right? So that's how I sort of see it.
Hey, what's up, Danny? So I could hear what you were saying. I just had to put my kids in the car, but I'm in the passenger seat, so no worries.
Okay, so you were saying about truth bearing. Like why there's a truth bearer.
So Danny kind of understands. This is why I think we've kind of been.
Well, Danny's offering a different
little bit in a circle
for what it's worth.
Yeah. The critique that Danny's offering, and the critique that you're offering. Danny, have you heard our conversation so far?
We've been having technical. I didn't hear the first half because of technical difficulties.
Okay. All right. So here's what I'm asking. Okay, why is it, given, if we can just review the conversation with Danny real quick, why is it the case that the probability favors evolutionary naturalism over some other hypothesis, or why you mean over its negation? Why reliability favors evolutionary? Yeah, over its negation. Yeah, basically. So whether we haven't even gotten into the supernaturalism yet. We've got
the
we're
claim was,
only
why
on
is it
like
that-
just why it favors this.
The question was, why does evolutionary naturalism favor some sort of reliability here as opposed to unreliability? Right. That's the question. That's
Why is the probability specific?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
presumably,
And so
presumably whatever
and so-
answer, presumably whatever answer you
before-
get, Blitz.
Well, before you, I just wanted you to walk through my conversation with Blitz to see where we're missing each other. So, what Blitz's answer? If you want, I can steel man you, Blitz. If I get something wrong, then obviously
go ahead, and I'll
just
let you
tell me
know
to shut up.
if it's a good steel man.
Yeah. So, what Blitz is saying is, one, the mechanism, the ability or capacity to make inferences, right? That is going to be, in an evolutionary sense, it is going to be cheaper. And the reason it's going to be cheaper is because it takes less brain structure, such as it is just going to be a more parsimonious position. Is that fair, Blitz?
I mean, it's more involved than that, but yes.
Well, I was
ordinarily,
simplifying.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. And so what he said was, now he said he was using colloquial terms, but what he said and what was throwing me is he's saying, well, the brain structure must be this way in order to conform to survivability, right? And so then he was giving an example.
I wasn't using must as in like it's certain, like it could not be any other way. I was using must in the sense of like this is the kind of thing that would be conducive to survival.
So I said it's colloquial. You're not using it in. You're not using it. Yeah, it's conducive to survival, right?
More conducive to survival.
But when
than
we're talking about evolution, okay, so it's more conducive to survival in comparison to the alternatives. But if the alternative still produces survivability, then why would that not be more conducive? Like that's my whole thing. Why would it be more conducive to have truth tracking Well, one second, just really quick. Why would it be more conducive to have reliability and truth tracking toward survivability if the negation of that is still producing survivability? If you can have survivability, maintain survivability, but not have truth trackingness, then why is yours more conducive?
Yeah, so for any given action or for any given response or any given inference to some sort of environmental condition, the calories required for the brain to function when you have these non-truth tracking addendums to the brain structure will be higher. The amount of energy that is required for the mother to then, for the mother to grow the infant to grow the infant from 0 to 9 months or whatever will be larger because the amount of brain structure and the amount and the complexity of the brain structure will be larger. So these are, of course, these are, I don't want to say negligible, but these are small things, but these are the kinds of small things that evolution tends to act on very strongly. Things or features that produce the same output but require more energy tend to be selected against.
Okay, so you're just saying it's parsimony, right? You're saying it's a simpler explanation.
Parsimony isn't the word that's used in evolution.
It's
just evolutionarily cheaper. It's evolutionarily cheaper. Now you could, in principle, get okay. Let me give you an example just to maybe outline why I think it's like.
Is there a relevant distinction between something being evolutionary cheaper? Yeah, is there a relevant distinction between the word cheapness here and just what we would call like simpler or parsimonious, less assumptions?
Yeah, because parsimonious is like parsimony or simpler. These are like kind of philosophical expectations, but that's not relevant to the evolutionary question. The evolutionary question is really a question about thermodynamics and about like energy efficiency. And so I'm really saying that there's actually an energy efficiency gain here. This is not just like, oh, like it's just like conceptually easier to think of. That's not what I'm saying.
But I'm not so sure why we're stuck on this particular question, because you accept evolutionary biology, right? You accept the presumably the naturalistic narratives that lead up to us having truth preserving cognitive faculties, whatever those mechanisms are, whether Blitz is giving them or not. The point is that you want to say there's another layer of explanation, a theistic explanation to that, right? So if we did have a very, a satisfactory answer to your question, right, it's going to be compatible with your view, right?
Well, the reason we're hung up here is I'm trying to get the probability. So the first premise of planting his argument is where the probability of us having reliable truth tracking capabilities on evolutionary naturalism is inscrutably low, right? And so we're hung up on this first premise because he's saying it's more probable to be the case on that hypothesis, evolutionary naturalism, than on any other counter hypothesis or its negation. I'm trying to get the justification for why that is.
I didn't say any other counter hypothesis. I didn't say any other counter hypothesis. I said then it's negation. The negation being that it's more likely that you'd have truth tracking than that you wouldn't have truth tracking, given evolutionary.
Well, yeah. When I say the counter hypothesis, I'm invoking theism there. I'm not talking like,
I'm not making a claim about the probability of. I'm not making the claim of the probability of evolutionary naturalism compared with theism. That's not the thing in question. The question is whether or not it's probable given evolutionary naturalism. Okay.
Yeah. Why is it more probable than its negation? And I'm trying to understand the justification that you would have for that without already appealing to what we know like about the world. Yep. We're just talking about the expectation on the given hypothesis.
So your question is why does I want to clarify. Is this question is your question why does Blitz think that it's more probable on his view than the theistic view? Is that your question, or are you asking a different question?
Yeah, he's denying the first premise of planting his argument.
No, wait, hold on. No.
That's why I asked.
Both of you are now misrepresenting me. I'm saying that it's more likely under evolutionary naturalism that you would get truth tracking, cognition, than that you wouldn't get truth tracking cognition.
Right, but he's asking he's asking you.
I'm not comparing with theism.
He wants you to compare it to theism. He's
I'm not comparing with theism, and that wasn't the original premise.
No. I'm not even talking about theism right now. I'm fine with the negation. I'm fine with the negation on Plantinga's first argument because the probability of evolutionary naturalism producing reliable cognitive faculties, right? Plantinga is going to say that is a low probability or it's inscrutable, right? And Blitz is denying P1 that it's not more probable, but he's saying it's more probable that you would produce these faculties, cognitive reliable faculties, on evolutionary naturalism. Yep. What I'm trying to derive is his justification for that probability.
But then nothing turns on that question. The whole question is whatever that probability is, low or high, how does it compare to theism? That's the heart of the question. If Blitz thinks it's a very high probability or very low probability, whatever the probability is, he's going to think that exceeds the probability of a theistic model. That's the heart of the question.
Yeah, it gets there. That just we didn't get there yet because we just
there. We were just having a conversation about evolution.
Right, but the point is that whether you say it's high or low, the point is that it doesn't exceed the probability of theism plus evolution.
Well, that's later on in the argument.
No, but I'm saying nothing turns on the question whether if he can. Let's pretend he can't defend his claim that it's high. So what, right? The point is that he could revise and think it's very, very low, but it's not gonna be lower than theism plus evolution.
Yeah, I like I said, we can definitely get there.
But that is where we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to be at what is the particular value of the particular probability of theism plus naturalism, because that is not what Plantinga needs, right? In order to get his argument off the ground, it has to be compared to theism.
Eventually, yeah. No, but if you can already
substantiate, right? No, eventually, it starts there. That's where it starts.
Well, don't you agree though? Like, if you present a premise and you say, okay, the probability of X, right? The probability of X is already extremely low, given the hypothesis that X is like, or the beliefs of the person are going to be indexed to. Then you're already doing work there. Now,
it doesn't matter as long if the argument is supposed to show that Y is a superior to X, it actually doesn't matter what the particular probability of X is. What matters is whether it's more or less probable than Y.
Yeah, listen, I entirely agree on the theistic view. Like, eventually we were going to get there, but I was
eventually. Then if we're not there, we're talking about something different, not important.
Well, I was probing his epistemology on why.
Okay, so we're not talking about Plantinga's argument.
Given its negation.
Okay, fine. We're not talking about Plantinga's argument then, and that's.
We were just talking about P1, right?
Well,
that's it. That's all.
Well, if one reads Plantinga, it's actually everyone really doesn't like. I don't the way he does it is very different.
I
right?
haven't
like
read
very
manga.
different.
I've only read summaries. So
right.
like,
I mean, he does it. He does it very. He attacks like 4 physicalist views of mind and shows problems with them, which is not what you're doing, right? But the way that's typically represented is, hey, naturalism plus evolution, right? It would be very improbable that we'd have truth-preserving faculties, right? And so when we compare that to that would sort of require a theistic model, right? Where that problem is not featured there. And then the response is that, for at least that I give, is that how is it not featured there? Because theism doesn't predict truth-preserving faculties. So the probability seems to be more in line, or that the probability of naturalism plus evolution is not lower than the alternative model.
Yeah, so I agree that's what Plantinga is doing. I was just probing him epistemically for why he holds it to be the case that it's more probable, even given its negation.
What turns on that question?
What turns on that question is being able to substantiate like his view on why he thinks it's probable.
All right, so we agree whatever turns on that question, right, doesn't move the argument, the evolution, what Plantinga is doing.
No, I 100% agree. Plantinga, absolutely, he ties it to theism.
Okay, so y'all are talking about something other than what Plantinga's on about. That's fair. All right.
Well, we started with Plantinga. We talked about P1. P1, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, Danny, but P1 in Plantinga's argument is that he shows, he just talks about the cognitive reliability of our faculties is lower inscrutable probabilistically on naturalism. On evolutionary naturalism. I don't think in his first premise he even says anything about theism.
He doesn't, I mean, there's so many ways to characterize what Plantinga is doing. But P1 really should be that the probability when you compare naturalism plus evolution to theism and evolution, right? That the latter is more probable than the former. That's that's P1. If you want to think of it in terms of.
Does he form it that way? Am I wrong?
So last time I read it, there are no premises that he outlines like this. Right now, he's written about this in many different areas. So there might be a version of it where he lists all the premises. But
yeah, there's a formalized version for sure.
Right. But the most recent work that I read, right, there's no like P1, P2, P3, right? It's very natural. He gives it in natural language. So.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, what started was Plantinga's premise 1. And then I was trying to get his justification for why he was denying the premise. But in the first premise, I didn't include theism. And so, yes, technically we're on a different subject right now. We can move back to theism. But I was trying to understand why it's the case. He thinks it's more probable, even given its negation.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And I think that question requires a lot of knowledge about evolutionary biology and human psychology, human brain, and we can get into that. I think that is interesting, but
that's what we've been talking about.
Nothing turns on it, though, as far as the argument that you were initially brought up, which is Plantinga's argument.
What turns on it is whether or not evolutionary naturalism is believable. It perhaps doesn't. Perhaps the question it doesn't affect the question of whether or not evolutionary naturalism is favorable or disfavorable over theistic evolution. Surely, but it does. Like if you have reason to think that evolutionary naturalism doesn't favor reliable cognitive faculties over unreliable cognitive faculties, then you at least have some reason to not believe that unless all of the alternatives have been shown to have lower probability, right?
Well, the way I would think about it is I'm actually comfortable. In fact, I've said before that naturalism plus, the kind of basic mechanisms of evolutionary biology, I don't think that probability is very clear. When you add in a particular story about how human faculties are developed, right, a particular evolutionary narrative, then that changes, right? But then you're adding something to evolutionary biology plus, evolution by natural selection, right? And essentially, we're doing what the theist does when we add in psychology, except we actually have data.
Yeah, that would be question begging, right?
What would be question begging?
No, it would just be adding in. It would just be adding in some additional feature of like the way that we understand what the human mind is.
Because think about it, for the majority of the history of life on Earth, there were no minds. Okay, we've had billions of years of life with nothing, no entity that preserves quote unquote true belief. Right? Most organisms don't have beliefs. Okay, so I'm fine to say that just the facts about naturalism and evolution don't predict belief at all, right? The point is that when you add in specific stories about brain, human beings, and stuff like that, then it trivially makes those predictions, right? That's my position, and I could be wrong about that. But
okay. So given that beliefs exist, so the question is whether or not given that beliefs exist, if you assume that they formed via an evolutionary, naturalistic evolutionary process, the question is whether or not we have reason to believe that those beliefs are reliable, or the belief forming mechanisms are reliable, right? Because you're right. I mean, in most cases, you wouldn't expect beliefs to exist at all.
Yeah, for billions of years, there were no beliefs, but there was life, and there was evolutionary pressures and mechanisms.
Yeah. And I guess you were asking what turns on the question, Danny. So, like, in this, like, informal debate setting, what kind of turns on the question for me is if you're already favoring the probability of evolutionary naturalism as to be more probable than even its negation, non-evolutionary naturalism, not even going into like counter hypotheses like theism. If you're already saying it's more probable that our faculties would arrive at reliability given evolutionary naturalism, then the moment, or given its negation, then it seems like I need to deal with that battle first before we can even bring in theism, because we need to see why you think it's probable. We need to see why evolutionary naturalism is probable to begin with.
What I'm saying is this after updates. For example, as time goes on, we have a better picture about the brain, about human evolution.
Yeah, sure.
We also have, if we update on the fact that supernatural explanations have failed over and over and over again. People have appealed to gods for explanations for thousands of years, and they've been tremendous explanatory failure over the past. When you add that in, right, that makes, I think, that the supernaturalist thesis less probable. But if you don't add that stuff in, right, then my view is that that it's not. I'm fine to say that especially for sake of argument, but I'm fine to lean towards the view that naturalism plus evolution and supernaturalism plus evolution, right, that the probability of naturalism plus evolution doesn't exceed the probability of the supernaturalism plus evolution. It's just, and that's not me committing to a particular probability value. I'm saying it does. I don't believe that it exceeds it. It's the onus is on you guys to show why I'm wrong about that.
You're fine. You're fine with ceding that it's just like underdetermined or something like that, right?
Well, I just don't believe that the probability of the supernaturalist thesis is more likely than the naturalist thesis. And the whole point of the argument that Planet is giving is show why we're wrong.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay.
Well, hey, I don't. I've actually got to go. We're getting ready to eat lunch. I would definitely come up and talk about it another time.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting argument. I think it's better than like.
I like his argument. I like. There's another variation of it that is out there as well. I can't remember the name of the philosopher who uses it, but I like the argument just to talk about like reliability and why they're truth tracking. Because to me, here's what it seems. It seems like there's no problem in saying we could have survivability as a group of individuals, planet, whatever. We can have survivability, but it doesn't necessitate that any of our beliefs are truth tracking. So anyway,
and
like
we
were kind of talking about like the tiger. We were talking about the tiger and the.
I mean, and I know you have to go, but there's just an example that I'd like to give.
Wait, I was talking. I didn't hear what you said. Can you say it again?
So there's just an example I'd like to give that maybe illustrates my point and why I think that one is far more evolutionarily expensive than the other. So the way that we do inference is not hard-coded in. Evolution doesn't directly act on beliefs that we form via inference, right? Inference is in some sense a way of adapting to the environment faster than evolution will allow us to do so. So instead, we adapted, at least this is the claim, we evolved this process, this new brain feature called inference or cognition or rational deduction, whatever you want to call it. We evolved this so that we could respond to the environment faster than our genetics could. And so the point is that the evolutionary pressures are not acting on the beliefs formed by inference. It is acting on the mechanism itself. And so the mechanism doesn't have a way of generating beliefs except via input data. And so the things to compare here are you can either have beliefs that are directly correlated with your input data, in which case they'd be truth tracking, or you could have beliefs that are not correlated with your input data. But if your beliefs are not correlated with your input data, then they're coming from somewhere else. Those beliefs are formed some other way. And so one way that you could do this is you could just have a big database. If like a database built into your brain. If I see tiger, think fluffy cat. If I see tree, think cloud. If I see grass, think worm. And so like you could have this giant database of how to be wrong in every single way so that your beliefs aren't related to your input data. But that's far more expensive than just having your beliefs directly line up with your input data. And so if your beliefs do directly line up with your input data, that is what truth tracking is, right? That what your observations directly correlate with what's like, the input data gives you, a shape of a tiger. Your beliefs are about the shape of a tiger, right? Your beliefs are not about a worm or something. And so that's why I'm saying it's way cheaper. It takes less brain structure, or it takes less energy to grow these neurons, grow these networks, whatever. Just because in order to generate incorrect beliefs, you have to like basically build in a structure or build in a response to every possible hypothetical, so that you're wrong in the same way every possible time, or not wrong in the same way, but you're wrong every possible time. That's just far less likely, given the evolutionary cost of doing so. That's all I'm saying.
Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. Did you cut out?
Yeah, I was muting in a meeting. I was trying to figure out. Yeah. So anyway, no, I understand that that's your view.
Okay.
But when you're here, we can talk about it another time. Are you guys?
Yeah, sure.
How often are you live? Like
we do this
what days
every Sunday.
Live?
Every Sunday. Well, so I'm live. I'm live 3 days a week, Monday, Thursday, Friday. But we also have this show, the Unapologetic show, where Justin and Ian and myself are usually live. Ian's not here today, so that's why Danny's here. We do this every Sunday at around this time.
Okay. Well, I guess I only got a notification because I saw that Danny was live. But yeah, so we can.
Because they don't follow any of us.
Yeah, we'll talk later. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna get some more of your input, Danny. But anyway, yeah, I appreciate you having me, and we can talk about it again when I have more time, less of a time constraint.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for being here.
Y'all have a good day.
Good to see you, Blood.
See ya. Now, Justin, do you think we should just leave it this way, or do you want to actually? I mean, I know we were trying new software and stuff. Do you think this is just easier or do you want to try to?
I mean, it
get to where we were.
Once I refresh, it'll bring you in. Your connection to the guest box just broke, so it looks like it's in my browser. It's not a big deal. But let me read some super chats, and then we'll refresh and get our next guest in here, and we'll get you back on the screen. Hey, Tracy.
Sounds good.
Formerly Yantu, good to see you, friend. Justin, I expect better from you with the software coding. I know you have the hardware under control. Rock hard for Doug, Simple Wet for Shared, and Gay for Justin. Dick and Danny, Blitz the bomb. Well, I'll tell you what, Tracy, the problem is I'm doing too much at once, and then like something will be working, and then a couple days later I'll start working on something else, and then everything's connected, and then something will break when I start working on something else. Then I have to go back and figure out why it broke. The problem is everything's working for my live streams. This is the only live stream where we're doing like group participation, and so those are the bugs I'm working out now, because I don't really work on them during the week. Although I should. Maybe Monday I'll have someone come up and be a guest in the studio with me, and I can work on the bugs then, if there are any left. Dr. Joe, thank you for the super chat. Says, here is my preheat annoyance tax for no degree. With a no degree start, it's going to be a budget busting Sunday. You know what, Dr. Joe? You're right. And thank you for the preheating tax. No degree, at least, I'll give him this. He's at least, I think, usually respectful. He doesn't call people names and shout at you or things like that, but he does have some horrible views, and that does make it difficult. But what are you gonna do? A lot of these people do. Snowcat, thank you for the super chat. Friend says, super happy to catch Unapologetic live. I love that you guys are now uploading clips, videos for guys like me. We finally got it going. Super happy about it, by the way. Please keep it up because you guys are relentless. Well, that is the goal. We want to be relentless in a good way. Obviously, we don't want to be annoying. But yeah, be coming back to the channel. regularly, make sure you're subscribed and you ring the bell so that you can see the video drops now. Because, not everyone can watch the whole live stream. Hey, and Texas Panhandler, good to see you, friend. Thank you for the super chat. Now, let's talk about how the Epstein files don't exist. Oh, boy. Well, I tell you what, I guess I'm not shocked. I'm a little disappointed, at least, that didn't go anywhere, because they definitely do exist. We know that much. And G3 Rain, good to see you as well. Caller doesn't accept evolution. He accepts outcome of evolution. Species change over time. He doesn't accept or understand all the mechanisms of evolution, specifically how selection operates. Yeah, I actually agree. And I thought Blitz was explaining it perfectly well. I'm not sure how he could have explained it better. The less efficient you are in evolution, the more likely you are to get picked off. That's just the name of the game. The better you are at surviving, the more efficient you are at reproducing, well, the more likely you're going to be able to breed and continue living. I think it's simple. Is there something that I missed? Oh, Blitz, I don't know why. But
God damn it! I don't. Danny,
you're muted there.
It was my end. Yeah, I muted my mic. Danny, I don't think I was assuming functionalism in my description of the way that beliefs are formed. Right. I was kind of just assuming that whatever way the beliefs are forming, there's some sort of neurological process. And so
you weren't. Just because you said the words input and output, which is what beliefs or certain intentional states are on functionalism, is just those inputs and outputs. But you could be an identity theorist and think that there's still inputs of information that your belief represent. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all I was saying is that we get input data, right? And then somehow whatever's happening in the brain, there's some sort of beliefs that are formed as a result of that input data. Now the question is whether or not the beliefs are in correspondence with that input data or whether they are, non-representative of that input data. That's just the question. Yeah, okay. Right, so I didn't think so. I didn't think so. So I don't even know how you. Well, anyway, it's neither here nor there. But yeah, I didn't think I was begging the question on a particular naturalistic view of the mind or something.
Nevertheless, friends, I want to read a couple more super chats, and then we're gonna bring Danny back up. Hey, Gretchen, good to see you, and thank you for the super chat. Everybody, listen to the mods and go click the Async Network. Really quick, Doug Lamp and MSG, not Salt, MSG, will love you for it. I will too, and shout you out for the subs. Gretchen, great to see you. Thank you for support. And also, MSG is amazing, by the way. I don't know if anyone's actually cooked or used it as an ingredient, with salt, delicious, or even as a replacement of salt, but it's fucking amazing. Good stuff. But you might not be old enough. You remember in the 90s when everyone hated McDonald's because they thought they were making kids fat? There was a whole campaign to get rid of MSG because people were like, MSG is making people addicted.
The same reason why people are racist against Chinese food.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife cooks with chicken powder, right? Which is I think that's just basically MSG. You know what I'm talking about? We love chicken powder. It's just basically MSG.
It's so good.
It's pretty wild. Yeah, it's not addictive. It's just delicious. Same thing with desserts. Jamie says, when the yes or no questions start, it feels like a lawyer asking the judge permission to treat the witness as hostile. Actually, you know what? If you've ever seen a cross-examine in a courtroom, if they're asking yes or no questions, they will make you say yes or no. You can't weasel out of it. If the lawyer wants a yes or no, you're going to get one. Or you can plead. You can plead the fifth, and then that's a whole different situation. But Nick says, the tech...
It's Cinch. It's supposed to be Cinch, I think.
I would never... Cinch won't leave the stream alone this morning. I have no idea what that means. But you know what's going on here?
Cinch is I think it's the god of chaos from Warhammer 40k. Although I think that they're missing an N. Yeah, Cinch is a major chaos god in the Warhammer universe known as the Changer of Ways and the Architect of Fate. Embodies mutation, magic, evolution, ambition, and complex, endless scheming. I think that's what's being referred to here.
Okay, makes sense.
I've been looking a little bit more into Warhammer. I've been looking a little bit more into that Warhammer universe. There's a lot of Christian themes. They call it Christian punk, I think, right? There's all this stuff.
It's very Crusader-esque.
Yeah. Basic Share, good to see you. Thank you for the additional super chat. Is no degree required implying that Christians won't like streamers kicking PDF apologists because Christians are okay with PDF-ilia? So I think what he's suggesting is that he thinks people with horrible views should at least be heard out. Am I mischaracterizing what he said?
I think that's what he wants, yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I do let them get their horrible views out. I think it's good for explaining to people why the religion is so dangerous. I don't know who he's talking about. Oh well.
Yeah, I generally have a one Nazi policy, namely if somebody comes up and I don't know they're a Nazi and then they're a Nazi, I'll keep them on until they say something egregious and then I'll kick them and then they never come back.
Right.
Like that's my general rule.
And Game Guy, good to see you. Friend says, whining that your PDF apologetics aren't being platformed is a terrible look, no degree. It really is, by the way. And slavery apologetics, too. I think we're used to platforming slavery apologetics. But I wouldn't be upset if some guy didn't platform it. Async says, Gretchen, y'all need a do-over in the worst possible way. You know what? I think you're correct. It's on me.
I don't even know what that means.
I think the stream doer. Listen, we're one bug at a time. All I can say is we're gonna get them fixed. Apologies, Mr. Crowley, the Mr. Crowley. Thank you for the super chat, dear. It might be, dear Doctor. I think that's Mr. Sir Dr. Blitz. I am curious about the mathematical equation behind you. I am a PhD in medieval and Renaissance literature, so different doctor. Thank you.
So people ask this a lot. I couldn't even tell you. Not because I don't know what it means, but because this was scratch work that I was doing on a blackboard with my PhD advisor 4 years ago while I was still doing my PhD. I don't remember what we were working on at the time, and it's sufficiently disorganized that it's really hard to tease apart what we were actually doing.
All right, now the question is chalkboard or whiteboard? Which one's better?
Chalkboard is better if you have the right chalk.
I think it looks better, but whiteboard's easier to use.
It also feels better to write.
It feels more academic on a chalkboard, and you're right. The task of writing in chalk is more
satisfying.
pleasing.
It's really satisfying.
I don't like touching chalk, so.
You haven't used the right chalk.
Could be it.
Okay, you have to show me. You have to show me the way sometimes.
All right, I'll show you right now. I have.
Get one of the like the lightsaber chalks. You know, the one that's in a sleeve. You don't have to touch the actual chalk.
Yeah, you can get a chalk holder, or you can just get this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not an ambassador or anything, but like this is like the best chalk. It's like originally Japanese and now I think it's Korean. But it's coated in wax, so it doesn't get your fingers dirty, and it writes really smooth.
Wait, so you just have that right next to you? When was the last time you used a chalkboard?
Yeah. It's been a while, but it's sitting on my desk.
Okay.
I will have a chalkboard eventually, a personal one.
Yeah.
Don't judge me for keeping my things next to me, okay?
I mean, you have your chalk right next to your phone or something. Like that's kind of funny.
Anyways, Karen, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Says to say that P, any truth tracking organism evolution, is low is also to say an organism reacting to a patch of photosensitive cells is low. Is such a strange position. Do folks really find that surprising? I actually don't understand. To be fair, I don't understand his argument because it felt like an argument from incredulity. I didn't see an equation. I didn't see any numbers or probabilities. It sounded to me like he just didn't understand how evolution worked. And maybe I didn't understand his argument, but that's what it felt like to me. That's all I can say about that. So, I hope I'm not mischaracterizing his argument. Because
I mean, if you didn't understand your argument, then that's fine. You're not mischaracterizing it by saying that you didn't understand it. Yeah. Now, whether or not he was making an argument is a different question. I mean, to be fair, he was just saying, why do you reject P1? Rather than defending P1, of course. I let him
the general argument is, why would evolution prefer or lean towards organisms that are truth tracking? Like, well, because the ones that didn't died.
The charitable argument is that the idea is something like, in principle, one could have behaviors that benefit survival while not having beliefs that are related to those behaviors, or beliefs that are related to those inputs that cause that behaviors. So, like, you could imagine that, like, you get an input from a tiger that input causes you to have a belief about a tree, and then that tree thought, that tree belief causes you to run away from it.
Sure. Yeah.
And so like you'd still be running away from the tiger. You would just be, it's just your belief wouldn't be truth tracking. But my contention is merely that is less evolutionarily efficient.
It is less evolutionary efficient, but it's obviously going to be situational. There are sometimes believing in something that isn't real is going to yield advantageous outcomes. Like believing you hear rustling in the bush and there's a snake in it, so you walk away from the bush. Like there might not be a snake in it, but it's good self-preservation.
This isn't about the beliefs; it's about the belief-forming mechanisms. Is the important thing.
Okay.
It's the question of how is about how are the beliefs related to the inputs and outputs, and that's a deeper question than just like whether or not you can be mistaken. Because even if your belief-forming mechanisms are good, you can still be mistaken for various reasons because you can have various biases or something like this. But like it is a good question, but I think it's just resolved by thinking about the way that brain structures, if you think that brain structures are the kind of thing that give rise to minds, is resolved by thinking about the way that brain structures would represent these kinds of things, these kinds of beliefs, and how they would be correlated with inputs and outputs. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. We've beaten that dead horse.
Just to some extent, I think that when it comes like kind of what you're saying, Justin, like when it comes to philosophical views or political views, I think humans are terrible at the mechanisms that are in place to like help us think about philosophical questions about free will, gods, and like even political values, moral values. Like I think those sorts of things are like we're actually really bad at that. It takes a lot of practice to kind of form those, or it's kind of like exercise, right? Like we're not naturally good at like getting strong. We actually have to like move and actually exercise some of those stuff right now. So I'm actually fine to say that for some domains, like our faculties are pretty bad at tracking truth.
Perhaps. Well, friends, I'm going to get Danny back up here. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to refresh the page. You'll hear the audio blip for maybe 5 to 7 seconds. Then I'll bring us all back on stage. Many apologies. We want Danny's beautiful face to be on stage. And we'll have him in just a moment, and then we'll continue on. Our next guest is going to be Ice Hensley. Also, the YouTube link is on the screen, tiny.cc/UA chat. You don't have to join via TikTok. So if you've just got YouTube open, you can join in that method. And I'm going to refresh in 1, 2, 3. All right, Danny, I can see you now.
Am I back?
Oh, the audio is doing a thing.
That was me. I just turned off my phone.
Yeah, no worries. We're good now. All right. Although I got to turn the background back on. Apologies there. We should all be able to hear each other now, yeah?
I can hear everyone, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Dope. Should be good to go. I'll adjust these resolutions here in a minute. I can see the audio is going on TikTok. It's going on YouTube. So everything should be good. I just got to restart the virtual camera for TikTok. My apologies. And we're good. Everything's rocking and rolling. Welcome back, friends. We are going to grab our next guest and keep the discussions rolling. It's going to be Ice.
Oh.
Maybe. I see loading.
Wait, this is John Stone.
This is John Stone.
John Stone.
Oh, it
famous.
is.
Yeah. Notable, not notable.
Holy shit. It's been a minute since we've had John.
Internet micro celebrity and well-known racist, John Stone.
Yeah, holy smokes. John, the man, the myth, and the legend. It's been a while. Which argument did you want to run by us today?
Yeah, it's all my personal opinion. I wanted to tell Danny I really didn't appreciate the way he treated Jordan Peterson, and I believe therefore God knows.
All right, duly noted. Thanks for sharing.
Okay. All right. That was
Jordan Peterson.
It's a powerful argument, yeah.
Man. Jordan Peterson's a good
You
man.
have strong feelings there, huh?
Hmm?
Strong feelings about this, huh?
I admire Jordan Peterson. And I thought Danny was...
How do you feel about lobsters?
Oh, boy.
Lobsters are all right.
How
Do you
did
think
you?
about
What?
lobster
Okay,
sex a
so
lot?
let me grant that my behavior was no good. Do you think his behavior was any good?
No,
Did you watch
I
the
thought
episode?
you. I did.
No, I'm saying
I
throughout the whole
thought
episode,
you.
not just with me, with other people.
I'm trying to remember. Was Parker there too? Was that the
Parker,
where
yeah, that was
Parker
the
made a
same
clip?
one.
Okay. Yeah. Look, I will admit that Jordan Peterson, he does see. I don't know why he's so vague on whether he believes in God or not. I
No,
think
I'm not
that's
even talking about his arguments. The way that he treated people. Do you think he treated people well throughout the entire episode?
I thought he treated people decent. Sure, I think he always does.
Okay,
Generally
so
speaking.
you should rewatch it. In the very first interview, he snaps at a guy named Cade for no good reason. He just tells him to shut up, basically. Right? You should rewatch the. He doesn't treat people very well when he's pressed or when people are when he feels like his points are not being are being attacked. Right? He doesn't treat people well. Right? So I'll take the L on the rudeness, but that guy is not any more or any less rude than me.
I think Jordan Peterson is a good, decent, polite man. So I would just disagree.
Not in that episode.
Well, maybe it's been a while since I've seen it. I can rewatch
Right,
it, but I don't
right.
remember
So
him
you,
being.
all right.
Right.
Anything else you want to talk about other than that?
Well, look, I think that you're like I said, I believe Satan exists, therefore I think God does, and I think you're leftist, you're secular humanism, you're destroying Western civilization. You people are
Me?
fucking nuts.
Yep, you, Danny.
Well,
Personally, you.
Me? What did I do?
I just said the left.
Okay, but I'm not politically active. So what are you talking about?
You're not a leftist, are you MAGA? You're not, are you?
I've never
like
voted in
Trump?
my life. I'm apolitical.
You've never voted?
You don't like.
Danny.
Nope.
Do you think Donald Trump?
You're gonna get a stern talking to.
You don't support
What was that?
President Trump. I would imagine
No.
you don't support. Okay, that's my fucking point, man. What's
Okay,
fuck is wrong with you?
Why should I support Trump?
Because the alternative are people on the left who think that dudes are women and that fucking think that race and gender are socially constructed.
What is that? What is the whole that issue have to do with affordable housing, being able to afford food, gas prices? What is y'all are fixated on the trans issue? I don't understand why.
It's because
obsessed with it.
No, I'm not obsessed with it. It's why we think you're crazy. It's one of the reasons the idea.
What does that matter? Again, the real issues are homelessness, right? The real issues are homelessness, right? Cost of living, stuff like that, right? Wars. We want to avoid wars. You're talking about trans people. Like, you got your priorities wrong.
Dude, if you want to get into homelessness, that's part of your pathological altruism.
The point is that you jumped to trans people before homelessness, right? I would have actually said, okay, look, I think that the right has a better answer to homelessness. Here's why. But no, you jumped straight to trans people, right? And I think that says something about you. It shows that you really don't care about what matters in politics. You care about things that I think are not going to make the average American family citizen better, right? You're interested in something else.
No, we think you're crazy because you
already said that.
Biological. Well, you cut me off.
He's gonna do it again.
Well, biological men should not be in MMA matches with biological women.
Look, I have my views about that. We disagree, but let me grant you that issue. Let me just grant you. How about this? I'll trade you, okay, the trans issue for healthcare. Are you fine for universal healthcare in the United States?
I'm okay with some sort of universal catastrophe insurance.
Okay, but that's not what I'm asking. I'm saying something like the Canadian model or something like it. Or the UK.
Well, no, man. Like this is a socialism always fails. So this experiment has been tried. It doesn't work.
No. But you see, I'll let you win on the trans issue if you let me win on the healthcare issue. We'll switch. We'll do a trade, like a compromise.
I'm just trying to give you. I'm trying to give you a compromise.
You won't make the switch with me?
He cares about trans people more than he cares about healthcare.
No, I don't care. You
This is why I think y'all are phonies.
You have a
I actually don't think he's phony. I think he's just like has his priorities wrong.
Right.
No,
He doesn't. I guess what I mean is like he doesn't care about the average American as much as he cares about what our views about trans women being women. Right. That's what he cares about. Right.
You have your priorities wrong. I'll give you a fucking example. I bet you were for lockdowns during C-19, but you're also for BLM protests this summer of 2020. This is a hierarchical problem, Blitz. But tell me I'm
sure.
wrong.
Tell you were wrong about what?
Well, you were for the BLM protests, weren't you?
I'm generally in favor of protests when they agree with my worldview, yeah.
Yeah, and you were for lockdowns too, right?
To an extent, depending on the kind of lockdown.
It's
not mutually contradictory, though. Turns out it's not mutually contradictory.
Oh, yes, it is.
No, it's not.
You're telling us to shelter in place.
If your view is that people should be able to be outside, but they shouldn't congregate indoors, then that's not contradictory with outside protests being allowed. But anyway, it's not really here nor there. I mean, do you want to actually talk about the topic, or do you just want to like rant and rave about like racial IQ differences or something?
Well, I believe in evolution. I told you, I think Satan exists, therefore I think God is real.
Okay. Anything else, John Stone?
Yeah, you fucking misrepresented. Like, I talked to you on Dean's Live, about a couple weeks ago, and you were fucking... Dude, I thought you were disingenuous about DEI pledges, to be honest with you.
About who? Oh, you were mistaken then.
No, you said something like DEI pledges, like it makes no effect in hiring, right?
Yeah. Unless you're like a raging racist and you say like black people don't deserve this job, then yeah, they won't hire you.
Look, it's part of the problem in academia of only wanting left-wing people and
Oh no! Oops! What a bummer!
Oh, too bad.
What are the odds? My finger must have slipped and clicked on his name, and then slipped and clicked on disconnect.
Yeah.
Oh no! He wasn't. It was off topic. So what probably wasn't worth having him on. But we do have more guests in the guest box, so
yeah,
we
let's
can just move on. Oh, well, Q-Top's here.
Well, this should be interesting at least, but I hate to disappoint you, but I do have one policy with Q-Top, and Q-Top knows it. Q-Top, as before, you're always welcome on a stage that I'm on, but I only have one requirement. I need words to come out of your mouth, and those words are, it is not appropriate for an adult to marry or have a relationship with somebody under the age of 18.
Yeah, I don't think adults should have a relationship with children. Do you want to talk about the prompt that you just accused the last gift of? Or do you want to run from me like a coward?
I said,
do you want to run from me like 18. A coward today? Do you want to run from me like a coward? 18. Okay, wait 1 second. So you want me to condemn states? Wait a second. So you want me to condemn states that don't have? Wait 1 second. Do you want me to condemn states that don't have an age of consent that's under 18?
I want you to.
Wait. So you want me to condemn?
Do you want me to 16? Say 16.
Wait 1 second. Oh yeah. Okay, no problem. Okay, so okay, no problem.
Replace 18 with 16.
Let's get to the discussion.
Do you think that 15-year-olds should ever be allowed to?
I'm answering you,
bro.
I agree with you.
You do think 15-year-olds should be allowed to have?
Let's debate.
You don't agree with my position. To be clear,
you're running like a coward.
What I'm asking you to say is that adults should not have relationships or get married to individuals that are 15 or younger. Can you say that?
That's what I thought. Have a good day.
Can you say those words?
You don't want to address the prompt.
I just need you to say the words.
Q-Top, do you think that the age of consent should be lower than 16?
Do you think the age of consent should be under 16?
Look, I'm gonna go ahead and repeat it, and then we're gonna get to substance.
He won't say it.
My view is that there is never an instance when an adult should be with a child. Point blank, period.
And what do you consider a child? What do you consider a child?
If you disagree with the view, a child's implicator. If you disagree with the view, so you want to get to substance now, as you accuse the last.
Is a 15-year-old a child?
You want to get to substance? Do you want to get
I just want you to.
Okay,
I just want to make sure that you're that. I just want to make sure you think that a 15-year-old's a child.
You're asking questions, but questions are unintelligible from an atheistic position. So look, I don't want just your simple like dogmatic states here. What I want you to do is I want you to account for the preconditions of intelligibility.
Okay, so you can't even say that 15-year-olds are children.
Right now,
Blitz, I didn't hear an answer. Did you hear an answer?
I didn't hear an answer either.
I didn't hear an answer either.
Child marriage isn't wrong.
Although we will make sure and clip
do you understand that child marriage isn't wrong under atheism?
It's weird that you can't actually just say the words.
Bro,
I
just need you to say the words.
Q-Top, if you want to have a conversation, it's so easy. Just say,
I'd love to have a conversation.
No adult should be with anybody who is, below the age of consent.
No adult should be with a child. That's simple. That I already
why do you keep saying? Why not just say
we need to know
below the age?
We need to know what you think a child is,
bro.
What do you think a child is?
Or do you want to get to substance with the topic?
Actually, I'd love to get to the substance, but I've been telling you for 3 years that you'll never get to the substance until you advocate for not pedophilia. So still need you to say whether or not you think 15-year-olds should be allowed to get married or come into relationships with adults.
You are running.
Still just waiting for the answer. I think the person running is the one who can't say what a child is.
No,
What's
I think
a child?
the person running is the one that's not actually addressing the prompt above his
What's
own head right now that I came to address.
What is a child?
You are running from me. You are running from me. So look,
what is a child?
You right now are asking me a question about a moral proposition. Okay.
Oh no.
Well, sorry there. Q-Top, I've been telling you for 3 years. It's been 3 years. I would absolutely love to have a conversation with you. Conversation will never fucking happen until you quit being a pedophile. So that's on you, buddy. I can't help you. If you want to have a conversation on my stage, you got to denounce pedophilia.
Our stage.
And I want to add that Q-Top has doxed me many times.
Yeah,
I have videos. Yes. So he's gone into rooms and put my full name, put my address in the chat, that kind of thing, along with him and his little buddy.
Oh, that's so much worse.
He's a disgusting person.
Did you tell me that before? I feel like I forgot.
Just one of those.
Well, okay. Well, that's even better reason not to platform him.
Yeah, and I have videos, right? For all the Q-Top fans out there, if you want evidence, I have the videos of him doing that.
Just make sure to censor the your
my actual
information.
Name.
Yeah.
Also, word of advice, Q-Top: if you buy 1 million followers, but nobody comes to your live stream or watches your videos, we actually know that they're paid, buddy. You're not really fooling anyone,
right?
Yeah, it's really cringe. But they do what they can. They do what they can. Let's get Boundary Bend in here, and we'll get the next conversation going. I'm actually kind of sad because I've been hoping to talk to Q-Top for a long time. Now I know that he doesn't actually let anyone talk. You have to talk over him. But I still wanted to have a conversation with him so we can cook him live. It's just that I'm not willing to talk to a pedo. So welcome in, Boundary. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good. Hopefully you can ground this in reality a little bit more.
Ground what in reality?
Just the conversation back down to what it's talking about, and not like the last two guys. Just putting that out.
Appreciate
there too.
that. That's great.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess the way I go at it is, I guess when you're trying to prove anything, there has to be an absence of it.
Wait, what?
So like when you are asking the question, is there water on Mars? It's because there's no water right now. There's an absence of water on Mars. It becomes
we don't know that.
We don't know that.
You're right. You're right. In order to ask a question, you have to already know the answer. Like, what are you asking? What are you saying?
No. I'm not going that way. I know where you think I'm going. That's not what's happening.
No. I actually don't know where you're going. That's why I'm trying to understand.
Okay. Yeah. So the question up there is, God's not real. Prove us wrong. Which, to me, I believe in a God. So my question is, I have to explain the absence of God now. Because to me, there is no absence of a God. So just right off the bat, there's a difference in beliefs that just has to be addressed. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, like, surely we disagree on what's true about whether God exists, right? That's why there's a debate space.
For me, the way I believe in God, I guess, doesn't have much to do with science, which I mean, that's an important distinction.
Sure, doesn't have to.
I think if you ever get to a point where science is proving that whatever you believe in is wrong, you do have to change those beliefs.
Nice.
But I still believe.
So why do you believe? Why do you believe?
Yeah. Well, the real answer is I don't know. The same answer to is there a God? I don't know. I'm not sure why I believe. I've had a good life.
Do you think we should believe? Maybe frame it that way. Do you think we should believe, and if so, why?
In my personal belief, if somebody needed to believe in God, God would tell them that. So
do we, as in Blitz, Justin, and I, do you think we should believe?
This is not for me. I have no idea.
All right, I think you're.
If nothing's telling you to, then no.
Okay. Then what should we talk about?
Okay, so that becomes the interesting point where the conversation usually dies. What do we talk about? But I think it's fascinating that even though I don't have many words to describe it, I still feel like there is. I mean, maybe it's purely psychological and I'm all right with that, but I would still, like to know the more, I guess, of why I believe. Would that make sense?
What seems like something that you should examine internally.
That's what I've been doing, and I don't believe in synchronicity from like the pop media standpoint, because it's purely that it's just confirmation bias and stuff. It's that you can't go off of quote unquote signs and stuff like that.
I agree. It just seems like that. Look, it sounds like you have some introspection to do, which is great. You should do your introspection and then come back when you figured it out.
I don't think anybody's figured it out. That's my opinion. Nobody's going to get an answer here.
Okay, well, I don't know where you want to go from this. Probably
the next guest.
That's fair.
That's what it sounds like.
Boundary Bend, thanks for being here.
Cheers, Boundary. Well, it's nice at least. I think Baby Itella was next. And then after that, we'll read a couple more super chats so we don't get too behind, friends. But welcome in, Baby.
Howdy, howdy.
Yo, what's up?
Do you want me to call you Baby the whole time, or is Honey okay?
Just say Ayatollah, bro.
Ayatollah. All right,
Ayatollah.
gotcha.
How's it going?
Going pretty good. So is the prompt saying that God does not exist? Is that what's meant by not real?
Yes.
Okay.
In like the real world. Like you could say that Voldemort exists in a fictional world, right? So when we say God is not real, what we mean is that there's not like a real thing that exists in the real world that is God.
Yeah. So I mean, do you have like any like meta-ontological theory, like establish what means exist? I'm like, I look like a radical set quantity of you.
Did I hear you correctly? You said you wanted to run the ontological argument?
No, I said you have a
meta-ontological view. Let's say no, we don't have a meta-ontological view. What now?
Okay, I'll just give the argument then. Well, if a resilient definite description exists, then God exists. There are a resilient definite description does exist, therefore God exists.
Sorry, what's the word that you're saying?
I can't hear him either.
What's the something?
I think he said resilient as in Bertrand. Yeah, he's just doing the. He's just doing the
Rasalian what now?
He's playing a game, right? That's what he's doing.
Yeah, of course.
He's playing a debate bro game.
Yeah, so a resilient definite description is just any sentence that takes the form of the FSG. So it's compacted in these three conjuncts. So it'll be committing to, there exists at least one in CX such that X is F for all Y, if Y is equal to F.
You got to talk more clearly, my guy.
In X is G.
If you actually want like a charitable response, you have to talk more clearly. Like enunciate.
How's that not? Okay. I'll just try to say it again. A resilient definite description.
But enunciate. Clear your words.
A resilient definite description is any sentence that takes the form of the F is G. Right. And then that's being compacted into three conjuncts, which say there exists at least one in CX such that X is F for all Y.
Do you know what paper that comes from? Do you know what paper? Do you know what paper that comes from? I'm just curious.
It comes from a lot of papers. Now you said you know what paper it comes from. As if like it's only one paper. It's many papers. I can show you this.
The famous one, the most famous Russell paper.
the most famous specific name of the paper. Probably don't know the specific name of the paper.
On
But I read it
denoting.
somewhere. You ever heard of like Grokpedia? Like they have like 1,000 links to sources.
Look, okay, look, you're just a LARPer, right?
It doesn't really matter.
If you're gonna be a real person, here's what if you're gonna be shut your mouth. If you're gonna be a real, I have very little patience for this. If you're gonna be a real person, here's what you're gonna do. Okay. Yeah, I did. You're gonna give us premises that you think we would accept or that you think we would understand. Okay? If you're not gonna do that, if you're not gonna give us premises that we are gonna understand, all three of us, or ones that you think we would accept, right? Then get the fuck out.
Oh, so want me to give you an argument that you only understand? So if I knowledge gap you, for instance, then you don't understand it, and I just get dropped. That's what you're saying. It's fine. I'll just get.
Didn't you just get knowledge gapped about specifically what paper you were referring to by Danny?
Funny because you seem to know what you're talking about in terms of like you know what paper it comes from. I'm assuming. So if I give these premises and you should know what I'm talking about.
I'm showing that you're a LARPer.
There shouldn't be any confusion. So
I'm showing that you're a LARPer.
Well, P1, if there are originally definite descriptions, then God exists. There are originally definite descriptions, therefore God exists. And you try to quote me later. You're like, oh, I mean, you know what paper that comes from. So
if you do not give, since you're a pretender, you're a poser, right? All I'm interested in myself is, excuse me, 1 second, give me a second. All I'm interested in is premises that you think we'd all accept, and premises that we clearly understand at the very least, right? What you're talking about is extremely esoteric, okay? So if you're not going to do that, at least I'm not interested in discussing with you, and I don't think anyone should be.
Listen, I did that. Well, I'm gonna ask you a question because this only works if you actually know what I'm talking about. Now, do you know what a resilient definite description is?
Are you going to give me what I asked?
Well, okay, so what you asked depends on what you know. Give you premise that you would accept. You wouldn't accept it if you don't know what it is. That's the point. So now, do you know what it is? I'm assuming you do, considering you're trying to talk to me about it earlier. Now, I gave you premises earlier. I gave you actually a valid argument. It had an inference and all. I fought on one opponents. So, I mean, like, I'm very confused.
Remember my criteria. If you don't think any of us are going to understand, all three of us are going to understand your premise, then you need to go back to the chalkboard and start from premises, right? That get you to that premise so that we'd understand.
I also explained it to also define what I meant by it. And if you don't understand that, then it just seems like, I don't know, it's like a knowledge issue. Right. I don't even know. I defined it, I explained it,
y'all can talk
and I get a valid argument. What?
I was enjoying it so much.
This guy's just playing a game. If y'all want to play a game with this guy,
I'm playing a game. I explained what it was.
You are playing a game.
You're just lost. It's fine. I can just give the argument for the premises if you want.
And I'm just curious, like just from a meta point of view, like, do you think that the person who called you out for not knowing what paper it originated from is the person who's lost? Do you think that that's really the case?
Whether it's really the case, I mean, it seems like it is. But listen, that's not even important. That's not even important. This is the point. This is the point. So
I mean, it's just like a meta point because like you're accusing Danny of being lost, but Danny's clearly the person who's more knowledgeable about the subject than you are.
Well, why are you cutting me off? What's wrong with you? Huh?
I was in the middle of a sentence and then you started talking. That's not me cutting you off.
I'll go on you.
I mean, like, I'd love to see Danny knowledge gap you. I'd love to see Danny knowledge gap you, but it doesn't seem like Danny's interested. So unless you want to dumb down the premises so that a normal person who, so if you want to have a conversation, I'm happy to do it. I'm a fairly, I pride myself in being a fairly clever guy. I'm pretty good at understanding things, but I don't know the jargon that you know. So if you want to actually have a conversation, I'm happy to do it, but you're going to have to explain what jargon you're using, or just not use the jargon and use, normal terms.
Okay, so I already explained what I meant by resilient definite description. I explained that already. And then I told you what it was. I explained it.
Well, then, you tried, but you mumbled the whole thing, so I didn't understand what you were saying at all.
Okay, wait. Okay, so I'll say it again, and I don't know how I'm mumbling. I think the chat hears me. I'll just say it slower. I'll try not. Am I mumbling right now?
Yes. No, you're fine.
Okay. Now. Am I mumbling right now?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. A resilient definite description is any sentence that takes the form of the F is G, right? Which basically saying there exists at least one entity X such that X is F. For all Y, if Y is equal to X, then Y is also equal to F. And the X is going to be G. Now, this is needed because we have a existence condition, a predicate condition, and a uniqueness condition. Now, it having uniqueness condition is important because uniqueness makes it definite. Because if it didn't have a uniqueness condition, then it'd be indefinite. For example, let's say we have a sentence like, a man walked in a room, and the man sat down. This is indefinite because, well, who is a man? You're a man, Dr. Blitz is a man, Danny's a man, Unapologetic's a man, etc. But the definite is, okay, Dr. Blitz walked in a room, Dr. Blitz walked down. Now, if you have a sentence like, well, the God is good, the God is strong, whatever, the God is whatever, right? This is definite. That's what was being said there. And if we have this, then God exists, because under the radicalist type quantity view of ontic commitment, you'll be saying that, well, to be
Yeah,
by non-variable.
explain
Sounds
that
like a lot.
entire
I'm explaining
sentence.
simple terms.
Under a radicalist view. Yeah, you're using jargon again. So you want me to understand what you're saying?
I was going to explain it. I was going to explain it, by the way. It's very simple. When you hear it, it's very simple. Under the radicalist view, basically what's being said is this. Well, whatever exists within a theory is what was needed within a sentence in order for it to be true. For example, let's say we have a sentence like chairs exist, right? We would commit to the existence of chairs because chairs are needed within the domain of quantification in order for the sentence to be true. Now, given this, well, I find the case that the sentence of the form, well, the God exists, is that which will be false under the domain of quantification. So be anti-committed to this, and given there's no rivaling by ontologic theory to explain what it means to exist, then God would exist externally in the mind, etc. Now, you have
so I just want to double check, and you know, I'm quite famous. Famous is the wrong word, but I'm quite known for being extraordinarily charitable. So I just want to double check to make sure I'm understanding. It sounds like what you're saying would imply that that any sentence of the form something, some object doesn't exist is false. Is that what you're saying? Is that, you know, a consequence of the view that you're holding?
Something, some object exists is false?
Yeah. If I say you know, leprechauns don't exist, right? It sounds like what you're saying is that because I'm specifying this definite thing called a leprechaun, that definite thing must exist in my theory to even have a conversation about it, to even give a sentence about it, and therefore it actually does exist. And so the statement leprechauns don't exist would be false. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, sure. But also we also have.
Okay, well then it seems like I have good reason to reject. It seems like
to
reject
whatever. All that's being said is that if we have any senses of the form of the FSG, actually, any form of any statement of the form of the FSG, actually, that statement doesn't take the form of the FSG. So I don't know. But anyways,
okay. So neither does God's not real. So
are you okay?
I'm fine.
And then if I construct a sentence that says God is real, whoa, the God is strong, the God is real, etc., under the Quinian type view, the radical side.
I could say
also metaphysical ultimate true also.
So if I can construct the sentence, the leprechaun is short, does that mean that leprechauns are real?
Yeah, under the view. You haven't proposed any.
Okay, then it seems like I have good reason to reject the view.
Yeah, he's LARPing.
Okay.
He's not even. He probably doesn't even believe in God. I'm letting y'all know. He's just LARPing.
Dan, I'm not glad. Listen, Danny, listen. You were completely embarrassed. You got beat the fuck up. Just be quiet. Go back on mute. Anyway,
you're the one that didn't know where your own.
You have a sound argument in defense of your position.
Theory.
Wait, listen.
You're the one that didn't even know where your own theory came from.
He's trying to come back and regain face after getting beat up. It's fine. You got
I'm discouraging everybody from interacting with you.
Let your father handle it.
Do you believe in God?
Let the PhD
just answer that question. Do you believe in God?
Calm down. Listen.
Hey, babe. Whatever your name is. What's your name, baby? Hey, do you believe in God?
Hey,
do you believe in God? Yes or no?
I just, as an outside observer, baby, I'd love to see a productive conversation, but that can't happen until you stop talking over Danny. We're going to need you to do some back and forth, not just yapping over top of people. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Danny talked over me, but it's fine. I'm sorry, I guess.
All right. So the question is,
Blitz,
do you believe in God?
Sound arguments? Yes, I do. Now, Blitz,
okay,
do you have a sound argument?
Are you a Christian?
Yes. Blitz, do you have a defense or sound argument for your view?
What kind of Christian are you?
Yes, real, Danny. I'm not going to do a Q&A. Are you going to contest the
Yeah, you're about to do. You're going to do a Q&A. Are you? I am interrogating you. I'm exposing you as a LARPer. What kind of Christian are you?
You're exposing me as a LARPer? Wait. So is there anything I said with my argument that's false?
Just answer the question. What kind of Christian are you? Are you Catholic?
Is there anything with the also this aerotechnically invalid?
Just answer the question. What kind of Christian are you? Are you Catholic?
Is there anything with the argument that's false?
Excuse me. Can
is
you
there
answer my
anything with the
question?
argument that's false?
I'm not. I'm interrogating you to expose you as a LARPer. So answer my questions. What kind of Christian are you? You LARPer.
Wait, listen. It's funny because you asked me this question and tried to expose me being a LARP. But me being a LARP is contingent if I say anything that's false.
What kind of Christian are you? I'm not going to let up on the question.
Calm down.
I'm not going to let up on the question.
I'm not gonna lie, Danny, you're trying to do this like, listen.
I'm not gonna let up on the question.
Whether I answer your
what
question
kind of Christian are you?
It would not actually motivate the view that God actually exists.
What kind of Christian are you?
I can get back to Blitz, who's actually trying to be productive and trying to be actually substantive, and I can give my argument. He can give a sound argument defense.
We're all trying to be productive, but
this question would not help you. It would not be able to be useful. You're lost.
It will. So go ahead. What kind of Christian are you?
Explain what the question is cognitively useful.
I'm gonna repeat my question. What kind of Christian are you?
You're gonna repeat the non-cognitively useful question? Are you serious? You're embarrassing.
What type of? Are you a Catholic? Are you a Catholic?
Yes, man. Let's calm down.
You are Catholic, all right?
Calm down. Calm down.
So you are Catholic. Are you confirmed?
No more Q&A. No. What is the sound
Because I don't
argument
believe
defense
you.
of the position?
I think you're lying.
I don't care if you don't believe me. What the Oh, I don't believe you. Oh my God, I didn't take
And
into
that kind of
consideration
if you don't care that I don't believe you're a Catholic and you're not willing to prove that, that shows you're probably not a Catholic. You're not a Christian. You're just playing a game. You're just playing a game.
You know nothing. What's wrong with you?
I knew that
This is very
the
embarrassing.
theory that you
Go
invoked
back to
came from a
Blitz, go
paper
back to your
on
father.
denoting, which
Go
you
back
didn't
to the
know.
PhD mathematician who's clearly doing way.
We'll just drop the clown and move
Yeah.
on to a real adult. Okay. I don't know why they behave like that. I don't know who they're trying to convince. Mac, thank you
Danny,
for the super chat. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna ask. So Danny, he was jargon dumping, but like, given the words that he said, it sounded like he was saying that if you can say the F is G for any F or for any G, or for some G and some F, then that means that thing exists. Is that a good summary of what he was saying?
Yeah. So there's different. So there's like statements like the famous one that's tied to Russell's, like the present king of France is like bald or something like that. And there's questions about what that sort of amounts to, right? Like,
Sure.
Is it it's an exist for I think it's been a while since I looked at this stuff, but for Russell's like 3 conditions, right? It's an existence claim, right?
Right.
Given that it's a definite description, there's a uniqueness sort of thing. But there's like these criteria for how we analyze these statements, right? There are other competing theories, right? And people, there's a whole literature about this. It gets kind of complicated, right? He also brought up Quine, right? So there's questions about when we say things like the number 7 is prime, do we have to believe that there is an entity that is the number 7 for us to think that that statement is true? Right. So there's questions about that, right? And so he's using this very kind of complicated, these rigorous theories in philosophy of language and in metaphysics to kind of intellectually gatekeep us from being able to respond or interact.
That much was true. I was just trying to understand what he was actually saying. And it sounds like he was relying on some theory of ontology, I guess, or some theory of meta-ontology or something that requires that anything that you could say a sentence about, the thing indeed must exist, which seems like it leads to absurd conclusions if you take exist to mean like points to something actual in the real world.
Right. So I don't know how he's so what sentence he has in mind when it comes to God. So if we were to say the creator of the universe brought about 8 planets, right? It does look like, if that's true, that commits us to there being a creator of the universe, right?
I think he was talking about the sentence, God is not real.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you could.
I think that's what he was trying to do.
That. Yeah, if you formalize that, all right, you would formalize it as there does not exist an X where that X is, and then you continue, right?
Right.
But
I think he was just trying to do that kind of like do that kind of game.
Right, and I mean, some people like to play with those, play games with those sorts of people. I just have zero patience for it. It makes philosophy gives a bad name to philosophy. It really does.
I was just hoping to have him on long enough that you would crash out.
No, yeah, but the thing is that it gives us a bad name because you have these people going around, right? Say, doing this to people that don't know a lot of this literature, which it's not even common sense literature, right? And then you could see the whole, and I don't blame you guys, right? The second that you started hearing him, everybody was like, rolled their eyes. Oh, it's a Phil bro, right? Like, It's a Phil bro, right? So they give us a bad name, right? And I'm very against it, and I think those people shouldn't be given a platform. That's
all right. Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. We won't platform anymore while you're here. We'll do it while you're not here, and then we'll make fun of them. But we'll spare you.
Well, super chat from Mech Emu says energy can neither be created nor destroyed. Energy only flows in one direction, higher order to lower. Energy all comes from one source. What is it? It's oh boy.
Well, look, if it can neither be created nor destroyed, then there's no source of energy, because that would be something that creates the energy. I don't know why people think that this is an argument. Like, if you hold the view that energy is like uncreatable, and then you go on to say that God created it, like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I mean, it's weird. It's weird, but that's all they got. They don't have a whole lot. Low Earth Surfer. Hey, thanks for the super chat. Wasn't your name Clippy earlier? Massive W's for Danny. I enjoy his debate roasting Andrew Wilson a while ago. Hope to see more debates. Wait, did you debate Andrew Wilson recently? I thought it was still upcoming.
Okay, look,
No, it was
I
a
have
while
to
ago.
say,
fuck.
I'm about to what do you call it? Glaze myself, right? So there is a video on my channel where I talk to Andrew Wilson, and in my opinion, it's one of the most embarrassing exchanges I've ever seen with Andrew Wilson, right? So if you want to go see that,
I've seen it. It's beautiful.
He looks so dumb, right? It was in fact, but it was so bad he admitted that he did not do well. Like he just flat out said, "Yeah, I messed up there." So that's how bad it was. For Andrew Wilson to admit that he looked terrible, right? You can go watch.
Did you ever think that you would debate someone for free that he paid? Do you ever think that you would debate someone for free when he paid $300,000 to debate somebody?
Yeah,
you could have charged him.
By the way, the fact that he didn't humiliate Candace Owens shows that he's overrated. He should have.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Candace Owens' position is so crazy and just ridiculous that he should have squashed her, but he doesn't do his homework, right? He doesn't know. He's not familiar with the case. He does his little term. Let's focus on the words.
I think he said modus ponens at some point.
Yeah, my God. So the fact that I'm fine to say that he won on substance, but he should have crushed her and he didn't.
Fair enough. And from Birds, thank you for super chat. Our youngest son, same age as Sam, is a patient consultant for a law firm.
Patent consultant.
Oh, I'm sorry. Patent consultant makes more sense anyways. Thanks to the influence of Dr. B and Justin, he is back in school for engineering and made a B in physics. Hell yeah. Love Bird.
Hell yeah, let's go.
That's what I'm talking about. Congrats.
Let's go. Getting a B in physics. Wait a minute. Yeah, let's go. I mean,
nothing wrong with that.
Could have been better. Just saying.
I mean, there's always room for improvement. But listen, physics can be tough. I don't know. It depends on which class you're in. If you're just up there doing vectors or some shit, it's one thing. But if you're doing blitz style physics, that's a whole different ball of wax. It just kind of depends. Dr. Fudge, thank you for the super chat. Nobody who watched that performance, his side or anyone else's, thinks he did well. People in the Jordan Peterson fan subreddit were criticizing him for it. What an odd stance to take. I thought it was odd. That's why when he said it and then Danny said he was a LARPer, I was like, oh yeah, this guy can't be for real because he thinks that Jordan Peterson's beatdown looked good for him.
Well, John Stone isn't a LARPer. He's just an idiot.
Well, that is true. That is true. Dr. Fudge, thank you for the super chat. My friend says LARPers like Color should look into general fill of communication stuff. Grice lays out why this kind of crap is a failure of the speaker and not of everyone who doesn't follow. Actually, I would contend with that. Yeah. All right. I would agree with that. If you can't communicate your thoughts clearly, that's kind of on you. You do have the language to do it. And if you choose to just use the big fancy words because it makes you feel smart, well, it's on you if the people can't follow along. Last one from Gerd. Thank you for the super chat. Says Bought by Blood is a youth pastor. True. Ask him his opinions on grown men like himself talking to 16-year-olds. Wonder if he'd stand against that behavior. Now, actually, I know enough about BBB that I think he would stand against that. However, Q-Top, as we know, would not.
Hold on. No, this is stupid. This is a stupid take. Adults are allowed to talk to children, especially in instructive positions.
I think
don't
he meant
that you should be preaching to them
romantically.
But no, I think he just meant as a pastor.
Well, that would be
you're allowed
stupid.
to be a youth
Obviously,
pastor. You're allowed to be an adult,
yeah.
being a pastor to children. That's that doesn't have to be inappropriate, right?
If that's what he's implying, then yeah, this is dumb. It's a dumb question. I assumed that wasn't the question because that would be too silly of a question to ask. Oh, well, let's get our next guest. It looks like it's going to be. We had a bunch of new people that popped in during that last live stream, so I'm just going to pull from the top. I don't know which order they came in at, so it's going to be Refad Keita. You'll have to help me with the pronunciation of this name.
Danny, somebody named Frick Tyan is glazing you in the comments.
Okay. Sorry. I pushed the wrong button. I pushed the wrong mute button. Wait, who in the YouTube comments?
In the TikTok comments, I think their name is Frick Tyan.
Oh yeah, that guy's terrible. No, it's a friend.
Well,
anyway,
we've got Refa with us. How you doing, Refa?
I'm good. Thank you very much for asking. How are you all doing?
I'm doing well.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to give you a proof, not a proof actually. To me, God is the only fact that we have.
Which
I
God?
don't follow any religion.
Okay, so you're just a
I
general
don't follow
theist.
any. I'm an idealist.
Oh,
You can be an
okay.
idealist and be an atheist, though. So,
Well, I don't think so for a very simple reason, is that to an idealist, to a materialist, the world is made of matter, and to an idealist, the world is made of ideas. So ideas have to be thought, so they have to exist in a mind. So you can't be an idealist and an atheist.
But you might think that, I mean, the solipsists, for example, could think that could accept idealism, just think that everything is their mind. So I don't, and think that God does not exist.
Well, I'm not a solipsist, of course, but to a solipsist, he is the God. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, then you're just using God so
say,
loosely, right? You're using the term God too loosely, right? If the term God can make it to where we are gods, right, then you've destroyed the term.
But again, I'm not a solipsist. The solipsist says that he is the God, but I'm.
It's just a counterexample to what you said, right? You can be a solipsist, for example, and think that God does not exist.
No, a solipsist says that he is God. He's not. He doesn't say that.
Then they're just abusing the term, right? Then they're just abusing the term.
How?
Right? We're talking about God in a superhuman sort of way, where we cannot be gods.
But you're just trying to force the definition on me. I'm not talking about this definition.
Okay, if you want to have your own language, your own vocabulary, fine. But the point is that what we're talking about and the rest of the world is talking about are the sorts of entities that have great control over nature, have superhuman abilities to where they can control our fortunes and everyday lives, right? So that's what we're talking about. If you want to talk about something different, right, then you're in the wrong stream.
Oh, so you are just debunking the gods of religions, and I don't believe in them. I don't believe that any religion is true. So if that's
no, we're
fine,
talking about the
okay,
God of theism, as understood by philosophers, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or as understood by religious folks.
If we're talking about philosophers, then, for example, Berkeley was a philosopher and he was a subjective idealist. And to Berkeley, reality is God and everything is an experience of some sort. So that's a philosopher. Hegel, for example, was a philosopher.
We're talking about theism as understood by philosophers.
And Berkeley was a theist. I think he was a Catholic.
Yeah, but when you read Berkeley about his idea of God, what God is, he was a subjective idealist.
Okay, so let's put it this: what are we missing? Just say, what are we missing?
We're not missing. We're talking about two different things. You are
no. I'm resetting the conversation. What, Blitz, Justin, and I. What are we missing?
This question for us or for the guest?
No. I'm asking him. There's something that we don't know that would commit us to his conclusion, right? So we're missing something to whether it be about ideal. What are we missing?
Okay, I think what many people are missing is that the question of what is reality, and there's only one answer to this. When we say reality, we mean something that we either experience or think about. So any word has a meaning, right? So any word in English language or Arabic, I'm Egyptian, by the way. English is my second language. So any word in any language has a meaning, and this meaning is reference to something, whether it's something in the outside world or a thought in our minds. So when we say reality, we're referring to something. And when we refer to something, it's necessarily something that we know, and we only know through our consciousness. So reality is consciousness. Reality is something that we either experience or think about, and that's the very basic.
Okay, now how do you jump from that to God?
Again, how do you jump from that to God? Idealism says that the world is made of thoughts and ideas exist in a mind, and God is the mind that is the source of every idea and every experience.
Okay, so again, I don't see how. Let's just bracket the fact that you've somehow ruled out materialism, somehow ruled out some kind of transcendental idealism, where really, we can't know about how the world really is. All we have is our own image of it, I suppose. Okay, so bracketing that, you haven't undermined any of those views. If I thought that fundamental reality is made of, let's say, consciousness, okay, and I didn't think there was a God, what's the contradiction?
The contradiction comes only when we try to separate what the different ideas we're talking about. Again, you're trying to disprove a specific idea of God, and I'm trying to prove another. The God you're trying to disprove is not the God I'm trying to prove.
Is there a contradiction in saying, look, I'll repeat my question. Is there a contradiction in saying, right, and I don't take this view, right, I'm just assuming your view, an idealistic worldview, where everything that exists is made of consciousness, okay, but there are no gods, okay? Is there a contradiction between those two claims, yes or no?
I think the question itself is wrong, because once you assume the existence of consciousness, that's God. If there's not,
okay,
we can say
why does me thinking that the world is made of consciousness imply God? Give me the argument for that.
Because the God I'm trying to prove is consciousness. God is existence, and existence is consciousness. I'm trying to show you that what we call
existence. Okay, so by God, you just mean conscious reality?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's not what we mean by God. Are the sort of beings of the highest echelon of power, right, to where they have control over nature, the fortunes of humanity. We're talking about those sorts of beings, right? Okay. So we don't mean consciousness.
Yeah. But the God I'm talking about also controls everything. He is creating the laws of nature, the laws of mathematics, every fact.
If an electron is made of consciousness, right? If an electron is made of consciousness, okay, how is that God? Is the electron God on your view?
Okay, you're trying to talk about panpsychism. Panpsychism is a different idea. Idealism has a very different ground than panpsychism. Panpsychism says that yes, electrons do have consciousness, but idealism says that what we call an electron itself is an experience inside our minds. Like, let me explain, okay? How do you know that an electron exists?
Let's get rid of the look. I'm just saying that on this view, the electron is made of mental stuff, right? Think of it that way. Is that compatible with idealism or no? Okay, so what's wrong with that view? Because do you think panpsychism is compatible with atheism?
I don't know, but panpsychism has this dualistic nature of matter and consciousness existing together.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that everything that we think exists, whatever this thesis is, whether it's idealism or panpsychism, I don't care about the label. If someone had a thesis that everything that we posited in existence is mental stuff, all right, is that compatible with atheism?
It can't be as well.
It can or cannot? Okay, why can't it?
Cannot be.
Why can't it?
Because how can atheism explain consciousness? Where did it come from according to
You're just asking me a question, right? But you're going to have to give me a line of reasoning that gets you to how I'm wrong.
Okay, once we assume that consciousness is fundamental, that's a stopper for atheism. Because atheism cannot
be...
Because atheism cannot be built on a philosophy in which it has consciousness fundamental in it. Because
that's you asserting that.
Okay, let's just. I know that
he's going to do the thing again where he just says, "Well, how can you explain it?"
No. The source of our disagreement is that we are talking about two different ideas. Again, I can see that. You have an idea about God inside your minds, and I'm trying to explain something else. So that's why we're talking in two different point of views here.
Okay, do you believe, before you do that, do you think that there are any superhuman entities, that's to say entities with far beyond the human capacities and powers, right, that have control over nature, control over our fortunes, the traditional objects of worship that humans have at the highest echelon of power. Do you believe in that kind of thing? Yes or no?
Let me rephrase it. I believe that reality
No.
is aware.
Based on how I phrased it, do you accept that kind of thing, that kind of stuff?
If you're talking about angels and devils and so on, no.
No, I didn't say that. Let me say it again, because angels are lower on the echelon, right? I'm saying the beings of the highest echelon of power. So demons and angels are lower, all right? The highest echelon of power, they have power over nature and our fortunes. Do you believe in those sorts of entities, yes or no?
Yes, and it's not separate from nature.
Okay, but it's separated from nature, right? The point is that these entities could have powers over the way that the harvest goes, the fertility, whether we find gold in this mountain, right? Whether a volcano erupts or not. These are the sorts of powers that have been attributed to gods, and historically speaking, right? There is a distinction, right? They don't think that they're controlling themselves when Mount Vesuvius is erupted on their own by their own intention or their own design, right? So there is a distinction here that I'm making in the term between the nature, what the gods have control over, and the gods.
Okay, I know I took so much of your time. I'll just provide you with a final example to show clearly what I'm saying, and maybe we will end it there, and you just pass to the next guest. Okay. Imagine that you are imagining someone is sitting in a room. This room has a TV, it has a window, and there is the sun out there. There's a whole lot world out there, and there is a guy. To the guy, there is an external world. There is laws of nature. There is everything out there. But at the end, everything is controlled and created by you, the one who is imagining the dream. So that's how I see God. Everything is an idea inside the mind of God. Every law of nature, every law of mathematics, every event that happens in the world, everything is just an idea of some sort inside the mind of God, and that's what idealism is.
Okay,
I think not what idealism is, by the way.
You go, Blitz. Do you want to say something?
I was just gonna say, like, that is perhaps one kind of idealism. I guess that's called divine conceptualism or something. But that's not subjective idealism. What idealism is.
It's subjective idealism.
But you have to show a problem if. Okay, again, you would have to argue why we'd accept idealism. I don't see any arguments against materialism or a kind of dualism, transcendental idealism sort of thing going on. You haven't provided any arguments against those views. But suppose we're wrong and everything is, the world of ideas. That's all. The world is the world of ideas, right? I still have not seen any issues with atheists holding to that view, right? We're just not going to think that there's some mind, one particular mind, that is in control of everything. Rather, there's a bunch of minds, right? There's a bunch of mental stuff, and that's all there is.
I think I'm going to be repeating myself, so all right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Thank you very much. Maybe I'll join another time. Thank you.
Thanks for being self-aware, right? A lot of these guests are not. Thanks.
Well, I mean, self-awareness is helpful, so we appreciate that. Friends, we're going to get our next guest in here in just a second. No, Cat, thank you for the super chat. Nerd. Of course Blitz would know Warhammer lore. I mean, obviously, come on. Blitz knows a lot of shit.
Ironically, I only know it because one of my very Christian friends, actually two of my very Christian friends, one's more Christian than the other, involved me in it in college, and so, we played some TTRPGs in the Warhammer universe.
And
that's the only reason.
We got two from each, some shorts. Hey,
by the way, we can't see the super chats. They're behind you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I gotta take care of that. Eastham Church says drawing a three-dimensional. Sorry, that's plural. Drawing three-dimensional graphs with high-quality chalk plus color variation is really where dry erase cannot compete. I mean,
very true.
It is nice.
It's true.
It's a good look and feel. On the follow-up says the Avengers panel of crash outs today. Will we get Angel and DL? Oh my gosh. If we get Angel Investor up here today, it'll be a pretty wild crash out day, actually. And Daniel De La Noche, good to see it. The actual preconditions for intelligibility are, as far as I can tell, conscious beings who have experiences and the ability to interpret them. Yeah, that checks out for me. I think so. Although, yeah, precondition's a funny word. I'm always curious what Phil Bros think that word is doing in their argument. But let's grab our next guest. It looks like it's going to be Green Earth, and then Ralph, and then Nate. We had some people in the guest box, but they dropped out. So looks like some others got bumped up to the top of the queue.
Green Earth, how's it going?
Looks like I've shown connecting dots still yet.
Oh, I see them popped up. That's strange.
I don't think they're going to connect. Green Earth, sorry, but I think weird. Your connection is toast, non-existent, like God. So we're going to grab Ralph next, and hopefully get some robust conversation. Then we'll do Nate, and then Ravel Minds? Sure.
Ralph Lauren, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Glad to hear it. Ralph, do you believe in a God?
Yes.
Which one?
I would just say the Omni God.
Is that from like a comic book? Isn't there a guy named Omni God or something?
No,
Omni-Man. Omni-Man.
Oh, okay. My bad.
It's Omni-Man. But no, it was just the God with the Omni properties. That's what I believe in.
Okay,
Not
so
religious or anything.
all-powerful, all-good, all-knowing?
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think that such a thing exists?
I think there's evidence. I think fine-tuning serves as evidence, or some class of harmony arguments, but specifically
Okay.
fine-tuning.
Just as a double check, you don't think that Jesus rose from the dead, right?
No.
Okay, just double checking. Because Justin's been very sad today. Okay, that's fine. So, I mean, feel free to run whichever argument you want. Whichever one you think is most compelling, we can start there.
Sure, we can do fine-tuning for discoverability, which is just the idea that we, when it comes to us constructing empirical models or theories, there's just a high predictive ratio. And I'm saying that would just be evidence for God, because the class of theistic designers would, it wouldn't be implausible that they would care about something like this, since that it would be aligned with the sorts of values that they have.
So, and I just to double check to make sure I'm understanding, you're saying that like we have like a high success rate of predicting the way the world is?
When it comes to us constructing empirical models.
What do you make of the fact that, we've basically been unable to make progress for the last, as far as fundamental physics is concerned, for like the last 50 years?
I mean, that I would say that the
and
reason
add in
why...
all the revised models from the last 2,000 years or whatever.
Sure. Yeah, I would say that would be more of an issue between us and not necessarily the boundary conditions. I would say the reason why
but you're saying that the thing is we're not, right? We've been stuck on the standard model for like 50 years.
But what I'm saying, the reason why there's been a stagnation in terms of progression is because of us, not necessarily the boundary conditions that allow for the progression. In fact, I think for the last 200,000 years, the reason why science has been progressing slowly is because we thought it was okay to grape and enslave and unalive each other.
But look, if you're saying that like our progression, our ability to discover the natural world is evidence for the existence of this being, then one would think that our lack of progression must be evidence against it.
Well, no, because the question then is that what is that?
Like it can't go both ways, right?
No, the lack of progression. So your capacity for discoverability is codependent upon the environment, right? How well does the environment cooperate with you? It seems to be that the environment has been cooperating with us throughout the 200,000 year span, because we were able to use the environment to abuse it to achieve certain aims, such as weapons of mass destruction, the kinds of castles and things that we've built, stuff like that, roughly speaking. So it seems that the environment has been cooperating with us. Now the question is the stagnation due to the environment? Doesn't seem so. So it has to be the person with the capacity, which would be us. The plausible explanation is why the reason why there's been a stagnation is not due to the environment, but us.
That would be the case
why.
if you didn't know the underlying. This is actually this is actually a problem that's been studied empirically it's been studied by physicists. Like this question of like, you know, what we're talking about here is a separation of scales. So in fact, it is given a designer for you know, for such a, you know, that wanted us to be able to discover things, one would not expect the enormous separation of scales that we see between, say, I don't know, the weak interaction scale and the Planck scale, where we expect to see quantum gravitational effects. In fact, it's likely the case that the true nature of like the interiors of black holes, the Big Bang, these kinds of things, these will forever be out of reach because we know where we expect to find them, and it is likely impossible that we will ever be able to make any sort of empirical probes at that scale. So in fact, like this is a serious question. Like, why is there such a big separation of scale? And that separation of scale is just not expected under theism.
Well, the sort of question you're asking is just kind of mirroring the problem of evil, right? So if you already think in your background that the problem of evil goes through, then you couldn't just use this evidence to update, because it's just kind of the same kind of question that you're asking, given the kinds of properties God has, right? Which is that he could obviously optimize the states of affairs such that, you know, these sorts of things are allows the scales to not be so distant. You know, why is it the case, right? But it's kind of the same kind of question you're asking with respect to the problem of evil, right? So I'm saying that,
So then you can't use the presence of love to argue for the existence of God.
I've never brought up anything towards love. I think the issue
no,
is
but
that,
that's the mirror. That's the mirror. If you're saying I'm mirroring the problem of evil, you're just saying, well, the existence of love is evidence of God. That's essentially what you're saying.
I'm not talking.
And I'm saying, but there's all these cases where there's not love, where there's suffering.
Well, I'm not talking about love.
I'm not talking about evil.
Well, no, you would be talking about evil.
No, I'm not talking about evil.
The version of the problem of evil, at least.
I'm talking about not the hierarchy problem, in fact.
That doesn't necessarily matter. I'm saying this.
Look, if you're not talking about love, I'm not talking about evil.
It doesn't have to be a mirror. What I'm saying is the kind of questioning that you're positing, it's relevantly similar to the idea that why couldn't God just optimize the universe such that it's very epistemically friendly towards us, such that there isn't such vast amounts of scales.
You're making the argument that God. You're making the argument that the fact that it's discoverable is evidence for God, namely that God made it in a certain way that it is discoverable, that we can learn about the world. And I'm saying, well, okay, there's this enormous problem called the hierarchy problem, which is in fact an enormous gap in our ability to discover. And you're saying, oh, well, that's not evidence against the God, even though the presence of discoverability at low scales is evidence for God. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah. No, I can, because I said whatever answer I give, whatever answer that's positive for the problem of evil would transit to this problem.
Okay, if you're saying give an answer.
No, I want to know why. And then we could just have a discussion about the problem of evil. But then that's
no. I want to have a problem. I want to have a discussion about the hierarchy problem.
Okay, sure. So like first we'd have a conversation about the problem of evil, because I believe the answer that's
I'm not making an argument about evil. Here. It doesn't, though.
It's not.
The Odysseys don't resolve the hierarchy problem.
I said it's a version of the problem of evil. I never said it's strictly the problem of evil. I said it's a version.
It's a different kind of evidence. If you mean like the argument structure is similar, sure. But then the argument that you're offering is similar to the argument structure that theists will sometimes offer, where the presence of beauty or the presence of love is evidence for God, right? It's the same argument structure. But that doesn't mean that the evidence is the same.
No, I'm just saying that the argument I'm speaking of is not relevantly similar towards what I'm talking about, what those theists are talking about, because the sorts of things I'm positing are they're indifferent towards those kinds of things. They're indifferent towards beauty. They're indifferent towards love. They're indifferent.
Yeah, and the hierarchy problem is indifferent towards evil.
Well, I wouldn't say I would say yes, it would be indifferent towards evil, but it would be a large explanation for why there's this sort of scale, because presumably this scale is a problem, right?
It doesn't cause suffering.
You don't think it creates issues with respect to our progression in terms of scientific theories?
It creates issues, sure, but it's not evil.
Oh, okay, so if it creates issues, that presumably those issues would frustrate us, and that sort of frustration is a kind of suffering.
No, not necessarily.
You don't think frustration is a kind of suffering?
It wouldn't necessarily frustrate us either.
You don't think? Okay, so you don't think
like it might
scientists
frustrate
wouldn't
some
be
people.
frustrated with
It might frustrate it might frustrate some people, but that's not the
Okay.
problem. The problem is not that it frustrates people. The problem is that we have no explanation for why it's this way.
Yeah, and that's due to the limitations that's placed upon the unit. The limitations that's placed upon us, but also the fact
No,
that
this is a feature of
these
the
sorts
universe, right?
Well, yeah, I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm just saying that this. I'm saying it's both ways. I'm saying the limitations placed upon us because that plays a part into it. Also, the features of the universe. And I'm saying, well, if you're saying that, well, if supposing theism, something like this would be unexpected because obviously God has the ability such that these features wouldn't be a problem for us. I'm saying that that is simply
No,
a
that's
version
not the
of the problem
argument.
of evil.
That's not the
Okay, so
argument
then
then.
what are
You're
okay? So then what are you implying
the
by
argument
invoking
is
God?
so if the discoverability of natural features of our universe is evidence for God, then the lack of the lack of availability or the lack of discovery of features of our universe is evidence against God. The hierarchy problem poses a strict limitation on our discoverability or our ability to discover things about the universe. Therefore, the hierarchy problem is evidence against God.
Yeah, so then it would just
That's
be
all the
that.
argument is.
No, the point is just then like, okay, so now I see what you're
It's
talking
evidence
about. Then
against
it
your
would just be
discoverability
mirroring.
point. That's all.
No, it would just be. Well, the thing is that would be similar in structure as to that of if goodness is evidence for God, then evil would also be evidence against God. But the problem is that the thing that you're talking about would be similar to that of evil, right? Which is the kinds of thing that would be counted. And I said, whatever answer I give to that of the problem of evil, right, to as whatever you think is evidence against God, would transit over to whatever this thing that you would say that is evidence against God. That's the point I'm making.
Hold on, I'm formalizing this really quick. Go ahead, Danny. I'm going to formalize this really quick.
It's only... Oops, my audio was screwed up there. You're saying at first you made the claim that it was a form of the problem of evil, but that's not right. We agree there, right?
I'm just saying it's similar in structure.
Okay, but you said that later, but at some point you did say it's a form of the problem of evil. That's not correct.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
okay.
that's not true.
And
no.
then the
Similar
only
in
similarity
structure.
that I see is that when we're entertaining the God hypothesis, we generate the expectation that there'd be good things and generate the expectation that there wouldn't be very many evil things. All right. Okay. But if there was a different thing that we'd expect, like if there was God, someone might say, well, we'd expect there to be evolution to be false, right? And some people say, well, no, we expect it to be true, right? Just because it follows the same, I guess, model insofar as that we're entertaining things that are predicted on the God hypothesis and things that are not predicted on the God hypothesis. If that's what you mean as far as it's like the problem of evil, then sure, but who cares?
No, it wouldn't be a matter of who cares, because then presumably if I had a sufficient explanation for why these sorts of things wouldn't count against God, then it just wouldn't matter. The present of these things
No.
wouldn't matter.
If someone's asking why, let's say there's animal suffering, right? Because that's the kind of evil that we wouldn't expect on God, right? Whatever answer you give there won't solve Blitz's problem, right?
The answer I would probably give with respect to that would just be that, well, God, it's sort of like the evolutionary theodicy, which is that the only way God could have achieved his goods, which is that he had to work through that of evolution, because he can't obviously, he respects the natural laws, right? He works through that of the natural laws, and by proxy would have to work through that of evolution. So in the case of this, right, if God had to work through that of the natural laws, then the features of that of the natural laws would be open to the idea of, these sorts of features that wouldn't be epistemically friendly towards us. So something like that just wouldn't be surprising. In that case, yes, it would transit over here.
Okay, so you're saying that your response to why animals suffer terribly to like parasites is the same response that you're giving to Blitz.
Yes.
Okay. And I can only imagine that response only boils down to, well, God had other goals that necessitated this outcome. That's what it feels like you're saying.
I mean,
that's your response to everything. That could respond to any problem you give for any problem you give, you could always say that, well, God had other goals that we may not know about where this is necessary. Okay, but then it seems like now you have something unfalsifiable, by the way.
And also, God's goals are therefore not knowable, so you can't then therefore predict that God would want to produce a discoverable universe, for example.
When you say it's not knowable, what knowledge, with respect to what knowledge are you talking about? Are you talking about
just
comprehensively or existentially?
Just knowing anything about his goals.
That's
in the sense of
specific,
like
because
not entirely about his goals. You can't even know anything about his goals.
Well, I'm fine with granting that I can't comprehend God's goals, but I would probably
then you can't
say
make
that
predictions based off of God's desires.
No, that's not true, because even if you can't comprehend God's goals, you can say in some instances that you know that God's goals exist, right? And there's a distinction between knowing that and knowing
so
what.
what are these
right?
goals?
Because
what are these goals?
we just don't know. We wouldn't be able to know.
Well, if you don't know what the goals are, then you can't know what he's driven to do, and
yeah,
so
you
can't know. You can't make predictions.
No, I said, look, you can make predictions based upon things you don't comprehend, right? We've done this in the past. There are people that made
comprehend. Look,
predictions about.
Look. The point is that you can't just have your hypothesis can't just be an empty mind, so to speak, or an unknowable mind, because you have to add an auxiliary hypothesis about the kind of mind that the designer or God has, right? To be able to predict, oh well, this is exactly what we would expect to see, right? If you don't have that auxiliary hypothesis, that's to say knowledge of the particular goals or desires that this creator has, right? I don't see how you're getting off. I don't see how you're getting off any sort of way of being able to confirm the hypothesis.
You guys are conflating between the comprehensive knowledge of the goals with the existential knowledge of the goals.
Okay, I don't know.
And you think that because so look, prior to Sir Isaac Newton, people didn't know what gravity was. They knew that it existed, but if you wanted to bet money to like say that these people comprehended as to what gravity was, you would lose, right? They didn't comprehend gravity. So, but they were able to make predictions about, obviously gravity existing by pointing towards independent evidence, right? They would point to like an apple falling off a tree or something, right?
People understood what gravity
existed.
was, right? They didn't have a theory of it that was fleshed out until Newton or something like that, right? They understood the bare bones concept that people are familiar with in terms of, oh well, that's going to fall if I push it off the table, right? They understood that phenomenon, right? The point is that in the same way, okay, I'm granting that this designer has goals, has desires, right? But that's not enough to get you to a certain set of predictions that would confirm that there's such a mind. You need to know what those goals or those desires are aimed at.
No, it would.
Okay, so then what does a mind that has desires, and that's all we know, right? What does that predict?
Okay, so look, supposing that the mind, we're talking about God here. So now we recognize this entity has access to desires and stuff like that. If they have access to desires, presumably they would have access to reasons, right? If they have access to reasons, presumably the kinds of reasons they would have what they have access to is not just moral reasons, but they would also have access to reasons with respect to knowing things. Reasons that count in favor in terms of moral reasons.
Okay, so what are those moral reasons that they got that this entity has access to?
I don't know what they are. I just know that
those are going to require you knowing the content of the beliefs, right? The content of the beliefs with respect to morality are going to be what is morally good or bad, right? And if you don't know what that is, right, then how are you? It's still not going to generate any predictions. But if you know that, okay, morality means that you shouldn't steal from people that don't have anything or that don't have very much money, that are poor. You shouldn't steal from the poor. Okay, right. Well then, if God has that kind of desire, right, then we wouldn't expect to see a lot of poor people being robbed. All right, so that's how that works. But if the phrase moral content, really you don't know what that looks like at all, then yeah, it still doesn't generate any predictions.
No, the thing is that look, when we're talking about God, when people are talking about God, they're saying that there is some sort of some entity that exists that has no arbitrary limits, right? That's sort of conception of God that at least that's been talked about, or at least that's the understanding. Okay, if they don't have arbitrary limits with respect to their power, then presumably there is no arbitrary limits with respect to their knowledge, right? And if that's true, then it would be reasonable to say that this entity is all powerful and all knowing. And then if they're all powerful and all knowing, then we can use from that of Parfit. Parfit argues that, well, if some entity is all powerful and all knowing, then they would be sensitive towards that of the good because they have perfect
all right, but now but they're
perception.
okay, so first of all, you're going to be screwed. We're all, I think all of us here are anti-realist, so you're assuming Parfit, who's a realist, right? So you would have to argue for a kind of realism, but let's just grant moral realism, right? But then you still need to know what those moral facts are to generate predictions, and that is by extension, if you know the moral facts and you know that God knows the moral facts, right, then you do know the particular desires that God has, right? Presumably that God, God is against immoral things, bad things, right? Then that does generate predictions if you know the specific moral facts.
Yeah, well, the thing is that, yeah, I would know the specific moral facts. The thing is that the specific, at least one moral fact would be something like, all else equal, one shouldn't go around unaliving sentient beings if it's avoidable. Right, that seems to be the more plausible moral fact, and if that's true,
okay, so I think that
God
generates predictions.
Presumably would have access. Yeah, sure. Okay, so now we have.
Okay,
we have
so we wouldn't expect to see anything like that.
Okay, and then we would.
Okay.
Then
yeah, we do.
Then that's where the problem of evil. Okay, so that's where the problem of evil comes in, and then I would give a sufficient explanation for that, which is that, well, the reason why would be that, like,
But no, everything I said was confirmed, right? You now agree with me that just saying God or God has moral beliefs or God is omnipotent, that is not enough, right? You need to know the specific content of his beliefs or desires to be able to generate predictions. So you listed one, right? So your theory includes God being against killing unnecessarily, although that looks tautological, by the way. But you shouldn't kill sentient beings unnecessarily. It just seems like a useless tautology anyway. But let's pretend it's not, because we have cases in our mind that's brought up when we say that. We wouldn't expect things like genocides, right? Like so you agree with me that you need to know God's specific goals or desires to get on the prediction, to be able to confirm and disconfirm the hypothesis.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay.
And just to be clear, when this bare hypothesis that we shouldn't have people being killed unnecessarily or whatever, when that hypothesis, when we go out and look in the world and we see, well, there are people being killed unnecessarily, for example, that is of course evidence against the God that you've specified. Now you could say, well, that's not evidence against the God that I'm talking about, because the God that I'm talking about actually has some other reason, some other more dominant reason as to why it is the case that these things are not being stopped. But now you're talking about something else. And so every single time that a piece of evidence will be brought up, you're changing what the notion of God is that you're referring to. And that's a problem, because the explanation for why God allows these things or, designs the universe in this way, whatever it is, that's the kind of thing where you appeal to the unknown, right? And now you're just saying, well, this God just has these unknown desires that we just can't comprehend and we can't know, and therefore can't make predictions about.
No, because the thing is that you can say that these sorts of reasons do exist, right? Which they do independently.
But you don't know what the reasons are. So how can you make how can you make predictions about those reasons if you don't know what the reasons are?
Well, no, I'm saying you can know that these particular reasons exist, right? Which is that the kind of reason I'm speaking of are moral reasons, and the one that I spoke of, which is that or specifically moral facts that God would have access to, and the one that I plausibly gave earlier, right? And if I know it, then presumably God would know it too. And if that's true, I'm able to generate predictions. But note that, like, maybe I might not be able to fully comprehend the moral fact, right? Like, maybe
okay, so suppose that there is a moral fact. Suppose that there's a moral fact that you shouldn't kill people who unnecessarily, right? Suppose that's a moral fact. Can you make any predictions about the world based off of that fact?
Yes.
Okay, like what?
Well, the kinds of predictions you would make if the moral fact is that, well, you shouldn't unalive people unnecessarily, is that, the prediction would be that, like, presumably entities would, the prediction would plausibly have, which would be entities would probably not have this sort of, they would act against people that have some sort of disposition. Because that sort of moral fact would be motivating.
But we see that doesn't happen.
Itself.
We see people not act against that. So is that evidence against your argument? Or is that evidence against the God that you believe in? Because we don't see people, this prediction is falsified?
Seemingly it would be. if there wasn't some sort of explanation for that.
And I guess this go back to the original topic. You're saying that this is, you're trying to make a parallel between what Blitz was doing with I forgot what kind of problem he was bringing
the
up,
hierarchy problem,
and the problem of evil. The point is that the problem of evil, I think, specifically has to do with God's desires about good and evil, morality, that sort of thing, right? But then there's like the sort of what people want to want to differentiate between those sorts of attitudes that God has, and then like the attitudes of like practicality and designing the universe, right? So like I don't think, for instance, like if you were to say that, like, well, look, if you look at this organism, right, it'd be better if they had one less chromosome than they have, right? And so it would be evolutionarily speaking. And if you have a God that cares about the sort of quote unquote goals of evolution, these sort of evolutionary ends, right? You would expect this chromosome to have one less. This organism to have one less chromosome. That's not a problem of evil, because the content of the thing that's generating all these predictions are not God's beliefs about good and evil or morality or anything like that. It's about we would assume that he had beliefs or desires about efficiency and evolutionary fitness and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I'm saying that the reason why I'm calling it a version of the problem of evil is because it's sort of like this kind of notion of like imperfect design, which is that, like, well, given God's sort of power, these sorts of deviations would be unexpected, since that he could, virtually get anything he wants without these sorts of deviations. In the same sense in that of like the problem of evil.
Okay, so you're replacing morality with evolutionary fitness or something like that. Fine. And then, but
right,
then,
or discoverability.
Or discover, right. But look, I see what you're saying on one hand, that there seems to be some kind of common denominator between whether,
there's a parallel. It's a parallel argument, but the evidence it's a different kind of evidence.
Right. So, but I'm saying the theist is going to probably give different responses to why that organism has a certain number of chromosomes rather than the one that we think is more conducive to evolutionary fitness. Right. That's going to be addressed very differently than I think the way they typically address evil. Now, if there's an answer that covers all of these domains, then I think the criticism that Blitz and I are given, then it just looks like an unfalsifiable hypothesis, right? Oh, well, just because God has his reasons, or there are unknown goals that make it necessary to where that organism isn't going to be evolutionary fit at this time, right? Then it just looks like you no matter what you see, all right, nothing's going to just confirm it.
Well, no, because like it wasn't what I posited. Wasn't just that, well, God has reasons for it. I said that the reason why something like this would occur is because God necessarily had to work through that of the natural laws, and there's like plausible independent motivation.
He was the one who set them.
But by the way, that looks like you're giving up on omnipotence. It sounds like you're giving up on omnipotence. He necessarily has to work. He can't break laws of physics.
Where did the laws of physics come from then?
Yeah. So the laws of physics were the ones that he posited, some sort of laws of physics, but these were the only ones that he could work through.
That sounds like a strike against omnipotence. And
the classical notion of omnipotence. I'm not like a classical. I'm a process theist, so I don't think the kind of I think the metaphysics surrounding God's power is not coercive.
By the way, like, this is just trivially the case. If you think that the fine-tuning argument is a good argument, then it's just not the case that God couldn't have made the world with different constants that would resolve the hierarchy problem. So you can't have it both ways.
Well, it depends upon your notion of like the metaphysics behind God's power, right? Because if you assume that God's power is coercive, meaning it's unilateral, he can get any outcome he wants.
Here's the question. Then
sure.
Here's a question.
But
do you think omnipotence is construed in terms of a logical modality or something more specific, something more narrow?
So I think the omnipotence is construed in terms of the logical modality. That's fine. But then there's a question about the metaphysics surrounding his power, right? Because we understand that God's omniproperties are value-laden, right? So it depends upon your prior metaphysical commitments as to, in terms of the conception of like, what you think these some sort of omniproperties mean, or what they would look like if we were to come in contact with them. So I'm saying,
so help me understand this
if
case.
You don't take,
are you a Christian? It's fine if you're not. Do you believe in miracles, or are you some sort of like, you don't? There are no miracles in your view, right?
No, I don't even. And it's
Oh,
weird that like Christians believe that there are miracles too, because
okay.
I'm
So
pretty
you're
sure
sort of
Christ said
motivated
that.
by
Yeah.
you're motivated by the like the 18th century deists. Like, why would God intervene if he set up everything perfectly, sort of thing? Is that
Right, because I think
okay?
that like obviously I think
I'm friendly
this
to
sort of
that, by
idea
the way.
that okay, that's great. Because I'm strongly against occasionalism, right? Because that would be true if the sort of properties
Oh,
that
really?
God has, which is that he can force, yeah, he would be able to force any some
I
sort
don't
of
know what
states of affairs,
occasionalism
and
has to do with it, but
it would just mean that he
maybe I'm
would be
missing
able
something
to
there.
achieve his goals. It would just mean that he would be able to achieve his goals by violating the natural laws, which is what Blitz is talking about, which is that he can
Okay,
achieve
so on your
any goal he
model,
wants.
can God create produce a kind of regularity of nature, but then just decide, well, in certain cases, I'm going to violate the regularity? That's not possible on your view?
No, no.
It's hard to see a logical problem there, though. Or do you think it's logically possible?
I think it would be something like God values autonomy, and it's not that God values autonomy.
Okay, let me be
Wait,
very
did you
specific.
just
So,
say the same thing twice?
No, I said God values autonomy, and it is not that God values autonomy.
yeah, so let's use an example. Suppose every
I don't know what that
time,
means.
suppose in 99, there's 100 events in which every time an apple reaches a mass greater than, I don't know, 20 grams, it falls down, right? Let's suppose God institutes those rules, all right? But out of the 100 cases, right, God says, well, okay, I'm going to make it regular in all these cases, but there's going to be one case where the mass is 21 grams, right? Just that one case. I'm going to set it up everything to where it's like indeterminate at that point, and I know that it's not going to fall, right? Is your God capable of setting things up that way?
Just that, like during the one case, it's indeterminate as to whether he knows.
No, it's indeterminate as to whether it's indeterminate as to. So I think the rule I gave is if the mass is greater than 20 grams, it falls. But in this case, it may be 21 grams and fall or not, right? But then he knows it's going to fall, okay? And he sets up the world that way, okay? I just don't see any logical problem, I suppose, with that. Maybe bracketing how he could know an indeterminate outcome, but bracketing that, I don't see any problem, and I think you're committed to saying that's not possible.
So maybe there might not be a logical impossibility, but there might be some sort of metaphysical impossibility.
Okay. Well, I don't know where we're at right now. I was just trying to understand your view, but I really don't know where the conversation's at.
So if God is constrained by the physical laws, I don't see how you can say that the discoverability of the physical laws is somehow evidence of God, because the point is that in some sense the discoverability of the laws being this way is independent of God. God couldn't have done it any other way. It seems like that doesn't explain why these are the ones that are discoverable.
So I'm not necessarily talking about the laws, because like it could be the case that the laws are physically necessary. I'm more so talking about the boundary conditions that are produced by these laws, such as our atmosphere being transparent, the sort
that's
of
a consequence
that's
of the law.
produced between. Right, that's what I'm saying. But those consequences doesn't.
What boundary conditions are you referring to? Like boundary conditions, like the initial conditions, or what are you referring to?
What I'm referring to is in terms of our atmosphere being transparent, and
that's a consequence of the laws that might be necessary, right? God wouldn't have any say in that.
But do you think these boundary conditions are necessary? Because I don't think
that's not
a
boundary condition. The atmosphere being transparent is not a boundary condition. That's a consequence of the laws of quantum mechanics.
Okay, so look, that's just what I mean here, right? I just mean the consequence of these laws, which is our atmosphere being transparent, and then
the consequences of the laws follow from the laws. There's no choice there, right? Whatever the laws are, the consequences follow.
Yeah, but I'm saying the consequences don't seem to be necessary. The laws can be necessary, but it doesn't follow that
if the laws are necessary, then so are the consequences.
Oh no, that's a fallacy of division.
Yeah. God, my mic. I keep on muting my mic. Look, you don't want to say the laws are necessary. Presumably, wait, is your view that God could have not instituted different laws? Or are you saying that God could have not instituted different laws given his goals?
No, I'm saying I'm agnostic, right? So I'm just saying, suppose that these laws are physically necessary, right? I'm saying if that were true, the things that are a byproduct of these necessary laws need not be necessary, right? Because the laws can be necessary, right? These initial conditions can be necessary, but it's such that the sort of things that are produced by these laws, they don't seem to be necessary because we are also produced by these some sort of laws. But it doesn't seem to be the case that we
can
are
we use an
necessary.
example? Maybe Blitz can give the example. Like, I don't know what law you want to use, Blitz. I'm fine.
I'm very confused. Like, it's trivially the case that if the initial conditions are necessary and the laws are necessary, then any outcome of those initial conditions is also necessary.
Right, because the second that you have a violation,
then are you saying are we necessary? Because that doesn't seem true.
That would follow from those two statements that if the initial conditions and the laws are necessary, then yeah, that would follow.
Physically necessary. As you're using that modality, physical necessity. Look, if let's say some law, I don't know, Blitz can correct me. I'm just use force equals ma. If that's necessarily true, right? But then there's an instance in which that there isn't that kind of proportion, right? Then why would we say it's necessarily true? It's like sometimes true, not necessarily true.
No, I would agree to that, but I'm saying that these sort of conditions don't seem to necessarily dictate that we would evolve on this specific environment. It seems that it's possible for us, right? Yes, it seems that evolution is possible on other forms, in other locations, such as like a really dark cave.
But you're just saying, look, if the thesis of determinism is true, right? Then given those, like exactly like Blitz said, initial conditions plus all the laws that govern our causality, there's no indeterminacy. Yeah, then it's all physically necessary. I mean, that's just what determinism is about. Determinism is a thesis that given those facts, no other possible future there's no other possible future, right? You need indeterminacy to get that other.
No possible physical. There will be no possible physical alternative.
That's right. That's the only modality we're talking about.
But I'm not talking about that, right? I'm talking about.
You said physically necessary at some point.
Yeah. I said supposing these laws are physically necessary. I'm saying that there's a large conception of what is logically possible, right? Maybe I should have clarified the possibility. I'm saying there's a large conception of what's logically possible. That seems to be the case where we would be in these sort of conditions.
God doesn't have access to that.
Why would God not have access to what's logically possible?
You said that God was constrained by that which was physically possible. At least if I was understanding you correctly.
Yeah, I'm very confused about your view.
The physically possible is a subset of the logically possible.
Right, but what's physically necessary doesn't imply anything about something being logically necessary. Something
we agree,
physically necessary yet logically possible.
You're not being clear. We should reset. Okay. Let's just reset. And I think that's good. So, Blitz, can you start with the problem that you initially gave?
The problem is something like this, and I did actually write it down. So if the presence of, say, something X with property Y is evidence for God, then the presence of X with the opposite property is evidence against God. And so one might say that, and so it follows that if some feature of the laws of nature is such that the world is more discoverable, if that is evidence for God, then some feature of the laws of nature being such that the world is less discoverable is evidence against God. Then I brought up a particular feature that has this property. It's called the hierarchy problem. It's called a problem for a reason. This is limiting our discoverability, the fact that there's an enormous separation of scales, and therefore we have evidence against God. That this feature that is not aligned with discoverability, in fact, anti-aligned with discoverability. That's the argument that I was originally presenting.
Yeah, and I basically was saying, okay, so if the present of these scales is evidence against God, then the God hypothesis it would be rendered unlikely with respect to this datum. Right?
Yes.
At least less likely. At least less likely.
It could be less likely. Right? That's what you were basically saying, right?
Yep.
Okay, so what I was saying is that I don't believe this datum would make it unlikely because there would be reasons to say that there'd be something that either would explain why these things exist, such that it wouldn't be evidence against the designer, or at least in this case, God. So I'm just attacking the first premise, the conditional.
Okay, but you're saying it almost. I really feel like I'm about to misrepresent you, but it almost sounds like you're saying, "Well, here's my response. God has his reasons." It sounds like you're saying that.
Well, I'm not just saying well God has his reasons. I'm just saying that
So what are the
there's an
reasons?
explanation.
Okay,
What is the
I'm just saying the
explanation?
explanation. I'm
you're
saying the
saying like
explanation is that I'm saying
that's
the
like going to a
explanation is that
judge and
if
saying the judge is asking you why did you violate your what do you call it the parole, and you say, well, I'm innocent, right? There's no issue. There's an explanation, and then you stop there.
well, so I was going to give the explanation. I'm saying the explanation
Okay.
is that okay, look, if God had to work through that of the natural laws to achieve his goals, then the idea that there are features of that of the world that are not epistemically friendly towards us wouldn't be surprising. That's the point I'm
Okay, so
saying.
that conditional, I think the way I'm reading it is it gives up on omnipotence, and
it also gives up on the evidence in this way, right? Because if he was constrained to work within the natural laws, then the existence of natural laws that are epistemically friendly isn't evidence, because he was constrained to work within them anyway. He didn't figure out what those natural laws were that made them epistemically friendly.
No. So the thing is that look, I'm not talking about the laws. Well, number one, it would give up on a classical
Yes, you
notion
are.
of omnipotence. It would give up a classical notion of omnipotence. But number two, what we're talking, the evidence is not, just to be clear, the relevant datum is not that, there is these laws are discoverable, right? That was never the relevant datum. The datum was we are able to construct empirical theories with high predictive success. It could be the case, right, that the
replace
physical
laws with empirical theories that have high predictive success. It's fine if you can just swap that out in the argument.
Yeah, sure, and that's what I've been talking about.
It still goes through.
I'm saying no, because the thing is that if the conditions are necessary, what we see is that there are environments in which we can evolve in, right? Which is possible for us to evolve in, where it would not be the case where we would be able to construct empirical models with high predictive success, such as a really dark cave or under like thousands of miles of subterranean ice.
Not if you grant that the laws of physics were constrained, or that the laws of physics were necessary.
No, I'm saying all of this would be logically possible.
Right,
and
but
I'm saying
it wouldn't be physically possible, right?
That doesn't matter, because if it's logically possible, then we recognize that with respect to that of the epistemic possibility, we recognize that such of these cases are possible given towards that of our relevant knowledge, right? Because there is no
possible
contradiction.
In what respect? They're logically possible within our relevant knowledge, or they're physically
they're
possible?
Logically possible.
Because logical possibility doesn't get us very far. Logical possibility doesn't get us very far, though.
I mean, I'm saying that
and even if you say, in fact, any claims about this could be the explanation, right? That's not relevant to questions of probability, right? It's like in the problem of evil. So now it looks like there's evidence for what you were saying, right? If you're asking the Christian, why is it that God allows parasites to inflict such suffering on animals, right? And then you say, well, they could be rewarded for their suffering in an afterlife that kind of overshadows their suffering. That does nothing. They have to say that could be an explanation, right? You have to get the atheist to think that is what's likely going on. So in the same way, God, it could be the case that God's restricted in this way that's compatible with omnipotence, blah blah blah, whatever, right? But that's not enough to show to get away from the charges of improbability.
So then I would just posit that there's independent evidences that motivate that, which is that there seems to be the case that there is this thing called, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, Blitz, but it's called secondary causation. I think their view is roughly entity. Okay, so it's basically the idea that entities that exist in this world have the ability to move other things, or has the ability to move on its own. And I think there's overwhelming evidence for something like this.
And secondary causation is fine, right? We don't have an issue with second. I mean, yeah, okay. What's wrong with the point is that we're not the primary causes of the events that we bring about, right? Is that
right?
I'm fine with that. Okay,
right.
So but what does that have to do with this?
Okay, so if that's true, if what I'm saying is true, that if this is some feature of the universe, I'm saying that something like that wouldn't, if this is some feature about the universe, and we recognize that we have some access to the sorts of dispositions God has, or the existence of the dispositions that God has, autonomy is one of those things that autonomy is something that's taken into consideration with respect to morals.
If that's true, then it wouldn't be surprising that God worked through these sorts of laws to maximize autonomy, especially since that his power is not coercive. So constants that are friendly towards non-coercive means, what we would probably expect is that it would probably generate more autonomous means.
Wait, it
Right?
sounds
Means in which
like
you don't have to intervene.
you're literally saying to Blitz's argument, you really are you actually saying that, well, Blitz, here's the response. It's probably the case that God is because of free will.
Yeah, the existence of
You're
autonomous
literally
structures,
saying,
yes.
responding to this because of free will. Why would we think
The hierarchy problem because of free will?
Yeah.
It seems like it doesn't actually explain the hierarchy problem at all, in the slightest.
Well, free will is just not with respect to just creatures. It would be free will with respect to the entire universe, because I think the universe is autonomous.
I mean, we could chase this. I mean, I don't dislike you. I don't mind, but like, I'm getting a little tired, right? And it's not because I've been up for 4 hours doing this, but I'll give my last word, and then if you and Blitz still want to talk, that's fine. Here's my last.
Well, we do have a cutoff here in just a few minutes, and we got super chats to read still.
It's a good time to cut off. So Danny, your last words.
Oh, okay. So, yeah. So first of all, the whole secondary causation stuff. It sounds like you're a compatibilist, which is to say that freedom is compatible with determinism, right? And so then, if God's not restricted by these laws, or just the only sort of thing that restricts him is logical possibility, then God can arrange the physical world in any way that he wants, in a way where we're not coerced, right? So the whole it seems like at best, like you have better luck in saying that there's some indeterminate component to autonomy that God just by definition doesn't have control over, but you're not doing that by appealing to us being secondary causes. So there's that. That's why there's a whole conversation to be had there, which is why I just kind of I'm losing steam here. But I don't even know if that's the main thing that should be addressed. It seems sort of bizarre to appeal to free will here, but it requires a further conversation. Anyway, that's all. That's my last word.
Ralph, if you want last words, you can have them.
Oh yeah, sure. So with respect to what I was talking about, Danny, yeah, I'm a compatibilist. I also think that the sort of indeterminacy would kind of be expected if you think that the future is open. Which is why I told you earlier that I was a process theist, and one of the commitments of process theism is open theism. So yeah, there would be some sort of openness with respect to the determinacy of certain things. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to say. I'm really happy that I had this discussion with you guys. I learned a lot. I learned a lot of things. And I hope you guys have a nice day.
Thanks for talking. You weren't a complete troll.
Yeah, much appreciated. Take care.
Hey, thanks so much, Ralph. This is wild. Justin, we have so many TikTok guests today. We still got like 7 more.
It's because Danny's here.
That's what it is.
I was gone for an hour and the views went up, so that's not it.
Everybody wants a piece of Danny.
It's true. Sorry that we haven't gotten any Bible thumpers for you today, Justin.
Yeah, actually,
we had a bunch last week.
I was hoping that we get Bible people. I don't know how the chat feels, but the way I feel is 4 hours of philosopho gobbledygook, and we had some science in there. That's fair enough. But like, I was waiting. I wanted the Bible stuff. All right, but because the philosopho bobble actually kind of exhausts me.
I get it.
Same.
And talk about the Bible is fun because it's not as squishy sometimes as philosophy. Like the words just kind of mean what the words mean.
Yeah.
It's okay. But friends, I'm going to read some super chats and then we're going to call it for the day. Make sure, if you're not following Danny on TikTok yet, go to the image at the bottom of the screen, just above Blitz, click on it and drop him a follow, and then go over to Dannyphiltalk on YouTube and drop him a follow. Optimus, good to see you, bud. Justin sounds like he's talking.
We can't see it, by the way. It's behind you.
Oh, fuck. I keep forgetting that. Yeah, I got to change the layers here after the stream. Yes, we had some weird startup issues. Sorry about that, my friends. The Rabbit Squirrel says, all hail the emissary of the lava lamp. Indeed. And, wait, Danny, do you have a fake god or a pantheon?
Do I have a fake god? or pantheism.
Danny's too cool for that.
I need to come up with one. I would, if I were to be religious, I'd definitely be probably like I like the Greeks. I would be.
Shit.
So I would have to choose what god I would worship though, right?
It's got to be Apollo, right? Apollo's the
I need to refresh. One. I need to refresh. Yeah, a chill god. You know, I think it's actually kind of weird to worship a powerful being, and I think worship is weird anyway. So I would hope Apollo would just be my friend, right? Like or something like that, right? But I don't know. Yeah.
Modern atheism. Thank you for the super chat. Danny is goat. Agreed. Looking forward to talk on the LPT. What's that?
The logical problem of the Trinity. So yeah, I like talking about stuff like that.
That's a fantastic topic. I loved your interaction with Mike Jones on that one was just amazing.
Is Mike Jones inspiring philosophy?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, that was rough.
Yeah. So rough. He blocked me right after.
Yeah, that checks out. Daniel De La Noche, thank you for the super chat. Always good to see or not see Danny joining in. True. He was hiding behind a black screen for a little while. Not his fault, my fault. But we got it taken care of. And Rain says chalk is for academics. Engineers use whiteboards. Well, you're not 100% wrong. Where I worked at, we always used whiteboards. But listen, back in the day, engineers did use the chalkboards. So, Arcloid says at least John Mashita Jr., the Micro Machines guy, can enunciate when he talks fast. I mean, yeah,
I don't know who this is.
I think it was referring to the one Filber that was in here that was impossible to hear through his mumbling.
Yeah. That guy. I've lost all patience for that kind of archetype.
Also, we should stop using the word LARPer. We should start using the word poser, because LARPing is cool.
Oh, okay. I think I did call him a poser. I call him both. Right.
Yeah.
Matt, thank you for the super chat. This is one of the KG LARPers. See their Discord.
That checks out.
That does check out. That makes sense.
They kicked me from their Discord because they don't want me snooping.
Yeah, obviously. I think I was kicked too, and I'm thankful for it. I'm glad they did.
Right. Karen says, "Look at everyone. The Quinian Saiyan debate warrior has entered the live. Do you guys know what that means?"
I think it's supposed to be Quinian.
Oh, Quinian. Yeah, that's Quinian. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. And hey, Bryce Roney's back. Thank you, Bryce. It says, "Good to see Danny here. Miss you, bud."
Oh, I know Bryce. Yeah, I like Bryce. Bryce and I have chatted many times.
Bryce, good guy. Timothy, baby has called before and got squashed, then crushed. I mean, that does tend to happen. Wait, on this stream? I don't know if we have talked to Baby. I don't have him in my notes.
Yeah, I don't have him either.
Yeah. Pat, maybe it was on another Danny stream. Pat says, "I'm convinced Phil Bros always equal nonsense." Well,
this is exactly what Danny was upset about.
Well, I'm fine to make a distinction between people that do philosophy, like philosophy, and then the Phil Bros, right? Some people, it depends. Phil Bros, I think, has that appropriate negative connotation, but the thing is that the behavior of the Phil Bros will tarnish philosophy. So that's the issue.
Right. Well, friends, that is the end of our super chats, and it's 3:04, so the end of our live stream. Thank you so much for being here. I apologize. We had a couple hiccups getting going. Still working through a couple things here, but I think I got them worked out.
We will forever be your test bed
during the stream, so it should be even better. I'm gonna get some people together Saturday next weekend and test it Saturday night before we do anything on Sunday.
And then of course it won't work on Sunday, even if it works on Saturday.
Obviously, I won't even shut my computer down, and I'm sure it won't work, but we'll see what we can do. Thanks so much for being here, friends. And a lot of people are live here today, so get off of here, go over to the line, go over to AXP, go over to TikTok and support the rest of the streamers. Sunday's always a big day for the atheist streamers.